I want to welcome you all to this very important discussion today. I want to, at this point, also plead with us that are here, apart from the first row in front, can we move forward so we can start discussions of the reason why we're here? Can we just move forward a little bit? While we are doing that, I want to say that the president of Rotary Club of Port Harcourt Echo should be getting set. The moment we start, we won't be taking much of our time. We're already behind time, and we understand that some of us will be leaving at some point. And so we will want to crave your indulgence to please come forward and take seat in front. I want to quickly call on the president of Rotary Club of Port Harcourt Echo, Chief Miss Emem Okon. Miss as in MS. I don't know how it's pronounced, but I used to see that on her name. MS Emem Okon. She is the president of Rotary Club of Port Harcourt Echo, to kindly come forward and call this meeting to order, as well as give a welcome remarks. Thank you. Amen.
Thank you very much, Jim. For this event, I am comfortable with Rotarian Ememokun. You're all welcome to this conference. The process started during the ceremony of my installation as charter president of this club. The campaign against soot is one of the key projects that this club has selected to implement, and it will not only during my tenure as the charter president. First of all, I want to recognize the consolidator presidents represented here, assistant governors represented here. I don't know whether we have them. I know we have a past assistant governor in the house, our guests, fellow Rotarians, members of the Port Harcourt Echo Club, friends, you're welcome. I am happy that we have all responded to our invitation, not just as a participant to this conference, but as a partner in the process, because we are looking at mobilizing a collective effort to address the problem of soot in Rivers State. It's not just Rivers State. Soot is moving to neighboring states. So today we are here to look at what are the causes, what are the possible solutions. We are actually looking at a win-win strategy. We don't want to just and confront, but we want to look at the roadmap to addressing the issues. Not only stopping the soot, but what actions can be taken to mitigate, because the impact are there and the impact can linger for many years to come. So what can we do to stop the soot? What can we do to mitigate the impact? It is that long-term strategy for us to ensure that our children, the babies born within this period, that as they grow up, they will not be affected by the impact of. We are going to have speakers to make presentation. In fact, one of the speakers is waiting. Immediately I'm done, we are going to call one of the speakers because he's traveling and he doesn't have much time left. These people are experienced. We are going to listen to people who have already taken actions on the issue of soot. Research have been conducted, advocacy have been done, a lot of things have been done, but today, please, have an open mind. Whatever contributions you have it at the back of your mind that we are here to generate solutions. And we will not just generate the solutions, we should also be ready to be part of the implementation of these solutions. And on that note, I call this meeting to order.
Thank you, Rotary and Ememokon. Thank you so much. Without taking much of our time, let me quickly invite the speakers to the high table by my left. And we have some of them are going to speak to us virtually, but I'm going to call everybody. So if you're here, please kindly take a walk from where you're seated, and come forward and take one of the seats by my right. May I invite one of the speakers who is also here, Chris Inku, to come forward to the high table designated for the speakers. If we have ushers, if we know them, please can we usher them to the table? A round of applause for them. These are persons that have knowledge on the issue. They've done some work, and they're going to talk to us about it. May I also quickly invite Rotarian Robinson Sibe. I've been told that he's here. Okay, he's not here. He's going to talk to us virtually. May I? Okay, I think that's all, if I'm right. If I have not mentioned your name as a speaker, please bear with me. I'll come back to you. But just quickly before the next person takes the presentation forward, may I also recognize some of the prominent persons that are here with us. That is not to say that we are not prominent here, but there are persons that have made commitment and are interested and passionate about this meeting. We just want to recognize them. May I recognize the presence of a lady, a woman, a mother who has been working in the Niger Delta for decades now. She is no other person. She has been here since. Chief Dr. Bodin Asuni. You're welcome, ma'am. May we have a round of applause for her. I'm sure most of us here already know her. She's a woman that has the interest of Nigeria and the interest of Niger Delta at heart. May I also recognize Tommy Dumabare, Head of Pollution Control Department, Rivers State Ministry of Environment. A round of applause for him, please. You're welcome, sir. Please kindly forgive me if I do not pronounce your name very well, but I'll do my best. We also recognize the presence of Dr. Tambeke Barakoro. You're welcome. He is the Head of Department of Environmental Biology, University of Port Harcourt. You're welcome, sir. Let me also quickly recognize the last but not the least, Iyenemi Fibresima, Senior Chemical Engineer, Rivers State Ministry of Environment. In the same line, we also recognize what I have here is Mr. Onis. The second name is not here, but Mr. Onis, you're welcome. He's the technical assistant to HiPrep, the HiPrep project coordinator in Rivers State. You're welcome. Having done that, I think we are set to the first speaker, if I am right, because he's already online. So we're going to be having him virtually. He's going to be talking to us on the soot epidemic, dying by installment. That refers to you as a human being. Dying by installment, step by step death. That's what we are facing. And I think we need to begin to do some bit of reflection around the issue. The topic that he's going to be talking to us about. The issue of soot, what does it constitute? To what extent are you likely to live on Mother Earth? The issue of life expectancy. Why is it that in the Niger Delta, life expectancy is different to other parts of the country? Well, if this is going to take some time, is it on? Maybe we can have, for purpose of time, maybe we can have Barrister Nero Wheels to do the overview, just so that you can put all of this together.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to adopt the already established protocol. A lot of time is already gone, and we have to find a way to manage our time. I'll barely be repeating what the President has said in terms of overview of this program. We know that a lot of people and organizations have done work on the soot before. We've all been living with the soot problem in the last maybe 5 years, possibly 6 years. And various groups, stakeholders, have organized marches, protests, studies have been conducted, quite a body of work on the soot menace in Port Harcourt. And so there's really no want of effort on this before now. But what we, by we I mean Rotary Club of Port Harcourt ECHO, which is an environment-based Rotary Club, and the partners working together on this, what we came up with was, first of all, to ask ourselves, what can we do differently? How can we do this differently so that we can have results? Because many of the efforts before now don't seem to have produced the desired results. So in summary, I'm not going to be technical about this, but in summary, some of the elements of this program or this process are that, one, from the start we decided that it must be a multi-stakeholder program. So we didn't think that there was any one person or any one group that could tackle this issue on a sustained basis and produce results. The second element, which is fairly unique about this, is that this is not just an event. It's not a one-off action. This is going to be a process. So today's conversation just kicks off a process of further conversations and, more importantly, actions, engagement with different stakeholders and authorities and so on and so forth. So it's a process, not just an event. Another important element is that we're looking at solutions. So today you're going to hear a bit of the problem, no doubt, because you must do diagnosis before you do treatment. Today being the beginning of the process, a bit of the problem will be talked about. But right after that, the focus will be on solutions. What is the way forward from the various dimensions, from the health dimension, from the economic dimension, security dimension, and so on and so forth. So after today, some of the solutions will emerge, come out from today, but after today, most of the focus will be solutions. So this is a solution-driven, solution-focused process. Another very important philosophy underpinning this process is that we do not assume or presume that we have the authority and the force to compel something into being. So this is not going to be an attempt to propose security solutions to deal with this. I think a day or two ago, I saw a headline ascribed to retired General Abdulsalami Abubakar, where he was saying that Africa cannot create peace with force, cannot use peace to bring up, cannot use force to bring about peace. I know that in the thinking of many, perhaps some militaristic approach should be adopted in dealing with some of those who have contributed to this problem. But our thinking, we don't know how it will change tomorrow, but our thinking, our philosophy is that there must be a way that all that are affected, we all that are a mass or a population of victims, so to speak, and even some of those who you may otherwise consider culprits, we've got to find an inclusive way of bringing all of them into the mix so that no major stakeholder component feels threatened by what we're doing. So this is a huge social challenge before us, and we've got to find ways of thinking out of the box to deal with it. So this is my own overview of the program, not just today's event, but the process that we're kicking off from today, and it's important for us to bear that in mind. From time to time, we'll repeat it so that we know that this is solutions-driven. This is not about adopting some security approach or some force approach, but solutions so that we can have all stakeholders on board as partners in this journey. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Just to correct an error, please permit me, Dr. Ferdinand Giadon, you're welcome. He's also a speaker. He's talking on the issue of Port Harcourt black soot phenomenon, and he's already here, and I have not introduced him earlier. Without wasting our time, can we have Robinson now speak to us?
Apologies for not being around. My case is like the proverbial woodpecker who had prepared for the big day only to have a bit of oil on his on his beak. So apologies for not being around. It would have been a great pleasure, and my not being around also affected what I actually had in mind. So I try to keep it as simple and as short as possible so I don't bore us from this distance. When it comes to the issue of Niger Delta, River State, and environmental issues, it has not always been because people never said anything. In fact, we have been talking, people ahead of me have been talking, everyone in the hall. The fact that you're there means that you have been talking and you're greatly concerned. But there's been something that has been missing all the time, and which is actually a bit of sincerity, also a bit of strategy to make sure that we drive it to a conclusion. And but if you look at the issues, in fact, in my own case, I recall in 2011, I wrote an article on The Guardian, and that article was titled Niger Delta, A People on Death Row. I recall in 2013, I wrote another article on Business Day at the time, which was titled High Prep, Prepped to Fail. 2017, in the wake of the suit, I wrote another article which was titled Suit, the Final Moments of Niger Delta. Now, all of this sounds as though you're a prophet of doom, or that you're only saying what is wrong. But the truth of the matter is that we're talking about a health situation here. We're talking about a health challenge here. So in this short presentation, I'm going to follow in quotes, the same gory kind of thing, which is the truth, which is the reality, and it's always good to face the reality. So I'm going to speak on the soot epidemic, and where we are dying. I'm trying to portray that we're dying by installments. We're dying slowly. We're dying quietly as a people. And so if we don't come together, we are going to be in this condition for a while. So like I always like to do, I'll start with a poem. And the opening poem, I have titled it, Don't Suit Me. Don't suit me. I'm innocent. My life matters more than particulate matter. Don't suit me with no fire or any fire. Our lungs are not fractional columns where the soul is distilled out of the body. Don't suit me, JTF. Decommission, not destroy. We die either way, whether you suit us or you shoot us. Don't suit me, their hydrocarbon industry. Our nostrils are like the vents of an old lantern. We are getting high on soot. Don't suit me. You are chasing away our suitors. Our suits are all stained with soot. Our life is becoming charred. Don't suit me. I know what I'm saying. Trust me. It's not suit I mean. I don't have issues pronouncing shoot. So let me go straight to the issue. So what is PM? Like Mr. Eniro said, this is not a day to dwell on the issues. It's not a day to dwell on the problems, but we also do mention, particularly because this is the opening session of this conversation, which is going to be an ongoing conversation. So what we call soot scientifically falls under the category of what they call particulate matter, which is a complex mixture of tiny solid particles and liquid droplets such as dust, soot, fumes, smoke, etc. And then they are normally classified as either PM10 or PM2.5. where PM10 is commonly coarsely suspended particulate matter. They're more prominent, like in size, because the 10 and the 2.5 are a reflection of their sizes, whereas the PM2.5 is commonly described as fine particles because of their relatively small size, and they can go all through the way to the nostrils and down to the alveolar region. So this is usually more dangerous because it can go farther. Now, what are the guidelines in terms of what the World Health Organization says? They have a threshold where for 2.5, 10 microns per cubic meter, that's the threshold, and then for PM10 is 20 micrograms per cubic meter. So potential sources, I don't know if I should still call them potential sources or verifiable sources, because a lot of studies have since been done which clearly points to certain activities. But we know very well that some of these comes, or a high dose of this comes from artisanal refineries, which is a big challenge here. Also uncontrolled destruction of same, as well as activities of even the organized hydrocarbon industry, the refineries, the gas flares, and all of that, all the fumes that bellow into the atmosphere. Also activities of the heavy industries such as asphalt plants and so on and so forth, and uncontrolled burning of tires. The last report by the River State Ministry of Environment did point out that some of the substance which were found in the composition of the soot, it was indicative that it probably emanated from tire burning. Also other activities such as generators and even automobile are also potentially part of it. So the health impact, in the presentation, you're going to be spoken to by a doctor. I'm not a doctor, so I will not dwell on this, but I'll just read a few things which point to the health impact. According to the World Health Organization, 29% of all deaths and disease from lung cancer, 17% of all deaths and disease from acute lower respiratory infection, 24% of all deaths from stroke. That's talking about pollution now being responsible for this. 25% of all deaths and diseases from ischemic heart disease, and then 43% of all deaths and diseases from chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. Now, to drive this down home, I'm going to quote a section of the report by the River State Ministry of Environment, which was occasioned by the recent suits in the last couple of years. I'll just read an excerpt where it said, estimates from human health risk analysis for PAH, TPH, BTEX, and heavy metal concentrations measured in this study showed that thousands of people in Port Harcourt are expected to suffer cancerous and non-cancerous effects from the soot in the atmosphere. So if anybody says that my caption is rather sensational, you can point to this particular section of this report. This is a report by the River State Ministry of Environment, and also which stakeholders did make input in it. So clearly we are on death row. Clearly we are dying by installment. Unfortunately, we are not seeing the hangman come with a rope or with a guillotine, but we are actually inhaling it. We're getting high on death. We're dying gradually, dying by installments. What are the intervention opportunities? And because I believe that as stakeholders, which are properly represented right there at the venue, we should go beyond just knowing the truth, because it's a well-researched issue. Everybody there knows particularly what this suit is and what the challenges are. But what are the intervention opportunities? I'm going to go from the very simple ones, which all of us can be part of it, to the ones which government has to take responsibility. So if you look at it, if you don't know how to diagnose a problem correctly, how do you even prescribe solutions? So Port Harcourt and River State is the hub of hydrocarbon industry, arguably the busiest hub of hydrocarbon industry in Africa. Now, beyond even the issue of the soot scenario, there should actually even be a situation where the city should be properly researched in terms of air quality, in view of the heavy industries, in view of the refineries, in view of the petrochemical plants, in view of the fire gas flares all over the place. So we should have air quality stations around the state. It's not even because there is soot. That should be something that should happen normally. Now, one of the things which I am recommending is that there should be at least 12 locations, 12 air quality monitoring stations, the fixed ones, and at least 6 mobile air quality monitoring teams that will mobilize to areas of strategic need from time to time. Now, the fixed locations can be selected based on data from existing studies suggesting increased pollution levels or industrial activities as a result of strategic industry they host. For instance, such stations could be in, I recommend 3 for Port Harcourt, one around the Transmadia Bloma axis, another around the Borokri axis, another around the Choba Emoha axis. Also around the Okrika Strip, Okrika Ogubolo Strip, around Eleme in view of the very heavy industries around there. Also the Buguma axis, the Tombia axis, in Bodo, around the Bokana axis, Abonima axis, Andoni area, Ahoda, and then Boni, also in view of the strategic industries which the island hosts. So we can set up this as a takeoff point. Over time, it can be increased, where it is not just because there is a soot, in quote, epidemic, but because this is the hub of hydrocarbon. By the very nature of the industries in this city, we should do constant air quality checks, air quality studies, because that's how you know how bad the situation is. And based on these studies, the next thing I'm going to recommend is that there should be regular public health advisory so that those in the vulnerable range can know when to come out, when to be properly prepared, or when to stay indoors. Also, there has to be a sustainable approach to end artisanal refining. So artisanal refining, like we all know, has crept into the economic mainstream, albeit in the underworld. So we have to look at how to strategically end it. The federal government, in dealing with artisanal mining in the north, did come up with their own strategy. I think a creative strategy like that has to be evolved in the Niger Delta region, because whether we like it or not, there is a lot that's happening in that underworld, and there's a very formidable economy out there that you're going to deal with. So government and stakeholders need to come together to look at a sustainable approach to ending it, and not by issuing a very strong and ineffective fiat or orders which never gets implemented. Also, like I said in the first recommendation, when you set up this kind of air quality monitoring stations, there should be a central repository where stakeholders and citizens, in fact, can have access to this data free of charge. Also, for those in the vulnerable age, they can put in place some respiratory aids and nose masks and all that, which can be used to support them. Now, partner with local and international health institutions to carry out periodic medical outreach to vulnerable population with limited access to healthcare. Also, studies like the one which the Rivers State Ministry of Environment did is already indicated that these items or these substances are carcinogenic in nature, which means that they potentially could cause cancer. Now, there has to be a way where periodic medical tests can be conducted, particularly maybe randomly, but to infer or to have something that inferences can be drawn in terms of health response. Also partner with educational institutions, primary and secondary schools in the state to set up environmental awareness clubs, which can be used. Sorry, I was just talking, I forgot that I had to be using the slide. Partner with primary and secondary schools in the state to set up environmental clubs, and also industry reforms, environmental responsibilities. Companies should know that they have to be responsible for their assets. These assets are theirs. If you cut off the supply from the artisanal industry, you're going to tackle the problem even by more than 80%, because if there's no supply, there won't be an industry. So if you have a pipeline, secure your pipelines. Companies need to be responsible. Stakeholders need to be responsible. JVs need to be responsible and protect their assets. They have to protect or ensure security around the entire value chain. So I'm going to end with a poem. I try to make this as fast as possible so that I don't boast. And the poem is Who Will Bathe Our Egret? One of the days I was going to play golf, I saw egrets, what we call chekeleke in my town. We call it vikodiku. And it was now dark in complexion. looking like a dark bird. So that's what inspired this poem, and that's clearly what Soot can do. Even our dear Chekeleke has lost his identity. Who will bath our egret? Her sparkling white feathers now dyed in soot. Her beauty lost in particulate matter. Her suitor chased away by soot. Her white suit now sooty. Chekeleke, give me my 5 fingers. Who will bath our egret? For no fault of his, he suffers an identity crisis. He can't recognize himself. He can't reconcile the strange reflection in the sooty pond. Chekeleke, give me my 5 fingers. Who will bathe our egret? He is depressed watching life go black. The herd of formerly white cows he follows, now all covered with white suits. From bird's eye view, he sees a city now in shades of gray. Chekeleke, give me my 5 fingers. Who will bathe our egret? His feathers now a trap of soot. Poor egret now looks like a mechanic. Even the priest of birds, the pierred crow, has lost his sparkling white clerical collar. Chekeleke, give me my 5 fingers. Who will bathe our egret? He saunters in search of a hopper. Poor egret looks weak and dazed, perhaps high on soot, or maybe he's gotten a respiratory condition. The soot has clogged his airway. Chekeleke, give me my 5 finger. Thank you, and I wish we have a wonderful deliberation. Thank you, and God bless.
Thank you so much, Robinson Sibe. This is really interesting and inspiring. We want to thank you. I hope you have some time to be part of this meeting while we have other presentations. I'm sure you have something to do. But this is a wonderful one. I don't know. The audience is quiet. Is this inspiring? Is it interesting? If you look at it on one hand, the information that he has provided, I don't know how many of us are aware of that level of information. When we talk about the soot issue, it's not just a presenter, it's not just an academic fellow. The point is that he has taken time to look at the reality of life and has transformed it into, poet, a kind of relaying society back to us. And the glaring example is the issue of the bed. The last one, the Chekeleke, you can see that very beautiful white bed colored with black. I want us to just be calm a little bit and begin to imagine what daily we take our bath, we wash ourselves and all that, but begin to imagine what happens to the part of your body that you do not see. Your thoracic cavity, your intestines, everything about your inside. And so this conference, like Barrister Eniro Will said, it's something that should branch out into several other conversations on different perspectives of this conference. Attendance, yes, we expect many more persons, but we hope that as we continue with this discourse, people are going to be aware and people are going to take the right steps to addressing not just the issues, but also to take steps towards mitigating the challenges. We want to thank you, Robinson Sibe, for another very wonderful presentation around the issue of soot. A round of applause for him, please. So we're going to have, plenary sessions where we're going to be talking about the issue, our perspectives, and all of that. But for want of time, we've done some work, at early era of the soot, and it would be nice to remind ourselves about what was it that we did. How did it start? What steps have we taken so far? So that we'll be able to consider what we need to do next to address this issue that has actually come to wipe away the Niger Delta, if you ask me. And so without wasting our time, I'd like to call on Chris Inku, who is going to be talking to us in a short while on Stop the Soot campaign, previous footprints. Chris Nku, please. We want to have you on the floor. A round of applause.
Good day, ladies and gentlemen. All protocol duly observed. My name is Chris Nku. I work with the Stakeholder Democracy Network, SDN. And for some time now, or for some years, the SDN has been involved in the issue of suits in the Niger Delta and in Port Harcourt in particular. And sometime in 2016, the SDN started initiating processes for research to be carried out. It has been noised everywhere on the social media and other media platforms that suit exists in the Niger Delta and in Port Harcourt in particular. Now, a step was taken in 2020 where SDN in collaboration with SED, SDN has been involved in the issue of soot. And sometime in the year 2020, last year, the SDN in collaboration with SED decided to undertake a research. And this research is majorly concerning the scientific proofs that actually soot exists in Port Harcourt. Sometimes people may have physical evidence, but they will tell you that there is no scientific backing to what you are saying. And that is what actually propelled the research on soot last year. And we compared some parameters within the lockdown period and also the time of ease of movement within that last year. Now, the SDN also made sure we had about 5 different locations or centers within Port Harcourt metropolis, making sure that we get data supporting claims of soot in Port Harcourt. And we placed some low-cost air quality monitors and at Borokiri, that is Port Harcourt South. Now, some low air quality monitors were also placed at Choba. Then we had some other placed at River State University. Then we placed some at D-Line and some at Transamadi. Now, what made the choice of these locations? We find out that the choice of these locations is to indicate that no area in Port Harcourt is as safe as we thought. Though we also find out that in some locations there were more soot emissions than some other part of Port Harcourt. And what was the objective of the research? We said this research was to provide objective evidence on the current levels of soot and particulate matter pollution in Port Harcourt. That was the number one objective of that research. And the second objective of the research was to successfully demonstrate a relative low-cost method of air pollution data gathering and analysis. So these were the 2 major objectives that prompted the research. And at the end of our research, we found out that there were more particulate matter of about 2.5 to 10 micron within Port Harcourt metropolis. Though from the research result, we found out that more were found at Port Harcourt South and Transamadi area because of the industrial activities that takes place in Transamadi. But to a surprise, we found out that within Transamadi, within the lockdown period, the particulate matters came down to a barest minimum. Then when the ease of lockdown was allowed, we found out that the particulate matters within this area became much, and they raised to a certain level. And it was also attributed that because of bunkering and fire activities, Borokiri of Port Harcourt had more pollution than never before. And that was to prove that scientifically we had more pollution associated from different sources here in Port Harcourt. That is telling you clearly that the pollution we are talking about, the particulate matter we are talking about, were released in the atmosphere majorly when industrial operations are taking place. And also,
are you sure they can?
We also find out that why the increase in southern Port Harcourt, we find out that is because of the bunkering activities that took place within those areas. Now, from our result also, looking at Choba Aziz, we also find out that Choba Aziz had more particulate discharges within the weekend time. That is within the weekend during the ease of lockdown, and less after less during the lockdown, and more during the ease of lockdown, and in particular at the weekends level. So we all know the effects of this. We know that from the World Health Organization, the particulate matter level that is allowable to be released is about 10 microcubic meter level that is allowed. But both the 2.5 and the 10.5 micron are all injurious to health. I will not want to go into health because we are not health professionals. But all we are saying is that all these can be inhalable, and it can cause health challenges to the people living in Port Harcourt. And also, we find out that within this period, if those involved in artisanal refining, we find out that there is a less concentration or less release of this particulate matter within the lockdown. So it means that the people that are involved in all this were relaxing somewhere, somehow, somewhere. So that is the energies of these people, of these sort of persons that are engaged in these kind of activities can be rechanneled. If their energies is rechanneled to a particular livelihood, then there is a tendency that we might have reduced the concentration of particulate matters being released to the atmosphere. And also, we also need a policy change. Policy change in the sense that is majorly from the government. Policy change in the sense that there is a gas reinjection project that the federal government initiated some time ago. So that can also be used for those flaring gas. Because we also find out that within that period that companies were not going to work, or it was highly based on rotational, we find out that release of particulates in the atmosphere were also reduced. So it means that if that is the case, we can do gas reinjection as one of the solutions. So once there is gas reinjection scheme or process, then particulate matters can be also reduced in the atmosphere. And also there was, I think there was a program by the federal government on artisanal, that is linking artisanal refiners to modular refineries. I think that it can be another solution to this. We can link all the artisanal refiners because they have their own portion or percentage or particulate matter which they contribute to the atmosphere. So all we can do is to make sure that a particular percentage of artisanal refiners can be linked to the so-called modular refinery so as to reduce the discharge of particulate matter in the atmosphere. And we have talked of rechanneling also their livelihoods to some other areas and government making firm policies. And the firm policies should be basically on, enforcement. Because actually there are a number of policies which the government has made. But the challenge we have is enforcement. Then we are talking of flaring. How do you measure flaring from the industry? How do you measure flaring? That is another big question. And after flaring, how much do you pay for penalty? So to me, I feel it is very subtle when you say things like that because there is no actual enforcement on all this. So that's why you see continuously there is particulate matter everywhere. But once these three solutions or suggestions are put into place, there will be solutions to this. So on a rundown, the research actually was just to prove that this soot we talk about and particulates actually exist in Port Harcourt. Wherever you are domiciled in Port Harcourt, these particles actually exist. But per time, there is an increase in some areas which I have mentioned and a decrease in some areas which I have mentioned. So, and finally, another solution to this, since we were able to use low-cost air quality monitoring gadgets to achieve our aims, then it means that the government too can build stations, air quality monitoring stations at different strategic areas of not just Port Harcourt. Because if you go to some other parts of the state, I think I will want to say not just Port Harcourt metropolis, but even some communities that these activities go on. There should be air quality monitoring stations within this. There are actually, we have low-cost ones that the government can improvise and start the process of monitoring air pollution within the Niger Delta. And as this is done, we will get feedbacks monthly. Okay, this month, this is what actually happened. These are emissions from so-so-so point at so-so-so point. So what are we to do about this? So let's think about this and see how to chart a way forward, making sure that we bring soot to the barest minimum in the Niger Delta. It is very practically possible. It is practically possible that that can be done. But let's start from this suggestion we have made. Channel the energy of the young men to something else. Policy enforcement, we have said so. Air quality made at different locations, making sure we get data of air quality within our cities in the Niger Delta, and also making sure that their livelihood is improved. I think with this, we'll be able to bring down the level of soot to the barest minimum. Thank you very much.
Please, another round of applause for him. That's a wonderful presentation. That's to tell you that some work has been done. As a community person, and I want to ask us, if something is happening in your environment, and you have looked around, looking at the issue of soot, when it started, what was it that came to mind? To me, generally, it was the fumes from artisanal refining. Was that what everybody thought of? I mean, because that was what everybody was thinking at some point. But the two presentations that we have had so far, CB mentioned that it is an accumulation over a period of time, which also includes gas flaring and all other related, petrochemical issues like burning of tires and all of that. Probably, we may not have experienced this level of environmental pollution from the soot, but maybe because we now veered into also artisanal refining. And that brings me to our encounter. And I think in that encounter, Emim was also part of that encounter. We were in a community in Bayelsa State called Igbomotoro. We went to do some documentary around environmental pollution and all that. And a chief in the community said something. And that is reminding me of what government needs to do and what we also need to do. When we asked him, why is it that communities are involved in artisanal refining, knowing that it could cause death? And this was his simple answer. He said, we are hungry, and so we have to eat. And if we don't do anything, we will die. If we do something, we will still die. And to cap it all, he said, the federal government is also involved in illegality. And they are bringing the JTF to stop us. And he asked a question, can you use illegality to stop legality? Can you use illegality to stop illegality? That was a question we couldn't respond to at that point in time. But from the conversation so far, I think there's something that all of us should be doing. And I think at the end of this conference, we will then begin to take certain proactive steps, particularly towards advocating, towards stopping the burning of tires. In fact, they use tires to roast the animals that we eat. How many of us are aware? You go to slaughter, you see them using tires to roast animals that we eat. We need to advocate towards stopping of that. We need to advocate towards stopping of gas flaring. We need to advocate towards stopping of burning of artisanal refining sites, and also encouraging our people to stop, the artisanal refining as it is today. So these are some of the steps that we have heard in the course of the conversation that we have heard so far, and I think that we need to begin to work towards putting some of these things in place. Chris Tinku mentioned air quality monitoring stations. If you ask me as a layman, and I think there are scientists with us here, I want to add, is it possible for us to also look at it from the perspective of air treatment and quality monitoring stations? Because we have come to a point where we are no longer safe with the present situation. And so let us give Chris another round of applause. Thank you so much for that wonderful revelation. We have studies that has proved that this particulate matter that is killing all of us is coming from our own activities, government and individuals inclusive. Let's begin to look at it as we move forward. Before I call on the next person that will present, I'd like to recognize some persons that are here who have also made this very important occasion successful. May I recognize Rotarian Precious, the president of Rotary Club of Port Harcourt Garden. You're welcome, ma'am. Rotarian Precious, you're welcome. Let me also recognize Rotarian Mike Eze, the president of Rotary Club of Port Harcourt. You're welcome, sir. Another person I need to recognize here is Rotarian Tractor Jacob Inyodu, who has been working around to ensure that the IT is the president of Rotary Club, Club, the Rotary Echo. May I quickly call on somebody who is here and is to give us an appreciation speech on behalf of the Port Harcourt City One Love. Let me call on the Oracle of Port Harcourt City One Love and other members to also support him. He is a member of the Suit Planning Committee, Mr. Chinedum Ile. Please, if you are here, let's just have a brief word of appreciation from you before we call on the poetry presentation. I hope they are ready. Chinedu, you're welcome. A round of applause as he walks towards me. He's been a great supporter of this meeting, and we hope that all of us are going to take it, and drive the process. You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, all. My name is Chidedum Ile. When I was called to give the name with which they will invite us to participate, I asked Joe Wills to address it to the spiritual leader of Port Harcourt City One Love. And people started laughing. I said, no. After all, you in Rotary Club, you also have governors. So we have our unique titles. So I bring you greetings from our spiritual leader, who is unfortunately not here because he's out of the country. Ambassador, we call him, Ogan. He has asked me to represent him in this very important gathering. The MC calls it a conference. I think it's more of a conversation. A lot of effort has been put into this very alarming issue of particular soot. So many organizations, the Boys Company of Nigeria that I'm also part of, we have done our bit. I was just sitting down there and listening to many of the things that I've been part of discussing over the years regarding this soot matter, and the many efforts that a lot of organizations have put in, and the very little success achieved so far. I just spotted something when Sibe was making a presentation and I was sitting with Nero Wills. The Chekeleke poem gave me a new brainwave, and I said, look, this matter is big, bigger than all of us here. But some of us have even gone as far as the Commonwealth, the European Union, the Canadian government to have conversations on this matter. And then I saw Chekeleke this afternoon. I said, that's it. Perhaps the international community will be more interested in protecting the ecosystem to save that Chekeleke than you and I. Trust me on that. If you call National Geographic now and tell them that a bird in Nigeria, a fish, a special species of fish, is going into extinction because of particulate soot, you'll be surprised at the magnitude of support and rallying you see in the next few weeks. People will start flying into Nigeria to conduct their own studies. Yes, everybody who lives in Port Harcourt is aware of the matter, government, and all of us are stakeholders. But it has gone beyond Port Harcourt. I happen to come from Oba Ebe Mandon in local government. My village is Obagin. The next village is Idu. As we speak, there is a gas leakage polluting and the people are crying. I have videos. That is also danger to the lives of people. So when you say Port Harcourt, yeah, Port Harcourt is the central point, is where we all gather. Delta states, Bayelsa State, in fact, as you are heading west from Port Harcourt, you'll see, use your white handkerchief and just wipe your nose. If your car windows are down, you see how bad it is. So on that note, I just want to say the Port Harcourt City One Love Group is going to be actively involved in this conversation. I like the presentation when Barrister Nero Wells was giving a synopsis. And he said, no, he quoted our former military leader, Abdullah Salam Abubakar. You cannot force peace. You cannot use force to achieve peace. Now, there are people we are tagging corporates. Let's not tag them corporates in a hurry. Because just like the MC said about the chief's response, we have to survive. So if the effort here is to condemn the corporates, we may not be achieving the win-win appeal that I saw on that paper that invited me here. So it's very important that we embrace everybody, don't scare anybody away, don't even tell them to stop. Perhaps seek ways that they can improve their processing. When you say refining of crude oil, In the ordinary man's language, refining is frying, cooking oil. That's what they do. So if you have a basic understanding of chemistry, you know that if you have crude oil and you take it to a certain heat, it gives you PMS. Another heat, it gives you aviation kero. Another heat, it gives you AGO. Get involved and see how everybody in the system can win. Again, they are not the only culprits. Even poverty is a culprit. When you look on the streets of Port Harcourt, and indeed Nigeria, some of the cars that travel around with roadworthy certificates cannot pass simple emission tests in a better climate. But they are driving. So my submission is therefore that we should continue this conversation and look for bits of ways to attract action. I guess I listened to a few speakers here and beyond. We all are in agreement that we are in hell as far as the air we breathe is concerned. We are all in agreement. So the only thing that is needed is action. And that's the problem. So let's begin to work towards seeing how we can get more people at home and abroad to act with us. Thank you all very much.
Thank you so much for that wonderful appreciation speech. Yeah, action. Let's begin this process with action, and that's what we need. And I think that's why we're also gathered here. I will be calling on the poetry presentation in a short while, but I want to inform us that we have two more very inspiring and interesting topics that we need to listen to before we go into plenary. And we are leaving them for the last. One is Port Harcourt black soot phenomenon. You want to know. And then the Port Harcourt soot and its implications on health. Robinson had talked a little bit on it, but then we're going to have a doctor talk to us on it. What are the experiences they're having, where in the health facilities that we have? Do we have equipment? What are the challenges that we're likely to face? What steps are we going to take to try to address some of these issues? So while we wait to listen to these very important topics, I want to urge all of us to stay back, listen to them, but let's just have a moment to listen to a poetry presentation and probably reflect on it. May I invite Lyrical Pontiff to come and quickly present to us something that will make us ponder much more. You're welcome. A round of applause for him as he walks majestically towards me.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I go by the name Chinwike David Oku, a.k.a. Lyrical Pontiff, and I just have this piece about this black visitor that has refused to leave our city, and it's titled Commercial on Rivers. It goes thus. Welcome to these oily rivers, where rivers are oil, and for oil we move on rivers. The oil in the rivers can neither quench our thirst nor anoint our heads. When dreams rot in the garden city, forget about the reeking stench of highways. Ignore the squirming median maggots, but mistake not, all residents have ravaged entrails. Garbage city indeed, glorified village. Welcome to Pofire, Port Harcourt, a paradise of illegal bunkery. Sit back and watch such natural phenomena as leprous security officers stand sentry, oiling their palms, and we hand over our faith to God. But our faith is crushed underfoot, bleeding under the tread of God. Welcome to Everyday is Christmas Pitaqua. Pofire feeds the sky with poison. Sickness will baptize us as rainfall. Soot powders everywhere and everything. Our lungs on black fire. Roofs on black fire. Heads on black fire. Everything on fire. But we are too busy chasing rats. Welcome to Port Harcourt, where promises are always in the pipeline. Youths burst the pipes in search of the promises. Rivers die in thirst. Fishes decay afloat. The yam barn empty. Farmlands unattended. Drum beats of hunger are getting louder. Take a deep breath and relax in Iguacha. Limousines wheel through potholes. Oil tankers swing in ditches. Land unsafe for investment and development, but very safe for haulage and exploitation. Dreams rust from the acid rain. Souls hopelessly kick in the air in rush to slavish places of job sites. Welcome to Rivers, oh visitors. The black visitor vows never to leave. Can't you see the indigenous species in their poor health? Thick black rheums coughed out of infected sore throats. Habitants here drift on cranky rafts, where black hot shortfeet flows lava-like, after which rashes dot our skins. Eczema maps our crops. This is my black Port Harcourt. Fire mist hazes over December dawns. Beware of the raging urchins posing as task force. Moribund civil service shambles towards the gravitational pull of corruption. Insecurity flung atop Everest. You would be unable to figure out quite unlike before, but don't get lost in this dark day that emanates straight from the man's heart. Here, such terrible marvels await you. So welcome, visitor, to the oil rivers, where rivers are oil, and for oil, we move in rivers. The oil in the rivers can neither quench my thirst nor anoint my head. Peace. Thank you very much from the lyrical pontiff, Chinwike David Oku.
Thank you so much. Another round of applause for lyrical pontiff. And that is realistically what is the challenge. I am going to call on the next person that's going to give us a presentation, but just to give us some thoughts. Communities are well organized around the issue of poor fire in the Niger Delta. So while we're deliberating on solutions, we need to also begin to think, how do we engage communities? Because that is the livelihood on which they have surrendered their life to. So let me use this opportunity now to call on Dr. Ferdinand Giadom, and he's going to be talking to us on the Port Harcourt black soot phenomenon. You're welcome, sir. Please kindly come and join me here while you talk to us on the black soot phenomenon. Please, a round of applause for Dr. Ferdinand.
Good afternoon, very distinguished ladies and gentlemen. Without further ado, we will delve into sharing some information, some knowledge on what we've been doing so far for the past 5 years, trying to understand the tragedy that has befallen us in Port Harcourt and its environs. I'm here to talk briefly on what has become the black soot phenomenon, the causes and effects on public health and environment. I am an academic at the University of Port Harcourt Geology Department, and I also do a nighttime job, being a consultant to the United Nations Environment Program. So I have the privilege of having my hands on a lot of data that I find useful, and then I think I can share with this august gathering. You can see the clouds at that point, that we can see the white clouds and the dark clouds. The dark clouds scavenge all the particulate matter, and then they become blackened. And as they become blackened, they trap more heat from the sun instead of radiating this heat or reflecting it back into space. And that alters our environment, keeps heating up the troposphere and the Earth's surface, and then begins to be the triggers for these climate change stories that we are hearing every day. These have serious implications for our microclimate, and you can see that we do not know when we are in the dry season or in the rainy season. You can see in December we are still having very heavy storms and rainfall as though we are in June, because this is an anomaly that has triggered certain inconsistencies within the climate patterns that we observe. Beyond that, then it has an impact on the human beings. And I will leave that to our medical presenter here, who will do a lot of work on that. But I also want to tell us that the black soot also has very, very serious implications for plants and by extension, our food security. A lot of plants and crops produce maximally within a particular temperature and humidity range. These perturbations and alterations that we have within our weather systems alter the times and the moisture content that we have within the system. This also triggers some confusion within the plants as they are trying to metabolize, and this interferes with their normal production, and this will ultimately impact on their productivity, ultimately having an effect on food security, increasing our poverty beyond the health implications of this. So beyond telling us that we are going to be affected medically, we will also be affected in our pockets due to poor crop production, crop failures. Fruits will not produce when they should and in the quantities that they should. And all these have a way of manifesting in our pockets and in our livelihoods. This black carbon coming from incomplete combustion, the sources have been identified, is no longer news. We know where they are coming from, but we will do a little bit more to be particular about this. Okay, at the beginning of the 20th century, the particulate carbon in the atmosphere was almost at zero, right? And then as the century progressed to the 1950s, by 2000, the ambient temperatures of the Earth, the rise in temperatures was below 1 degree Celsius. But just from this graph that you can see here, after 2000, we have seen a rapid rise. The peaking of the rise in temperatures, surface temperatures around the Earth, has increased so dramatically just from 2000, and it's increasing. And we are saying that from climate change studies that if we do not keep these rising temperatures within 1.5 degrees Celsius, then we are going to have irreversible climatic effects and impacts around the world. From what we are seeing, if the red dots show that if we carry out some intervention and it's delayed, that is where the temperatures will be in 2050, which is just about 20 something years from now. If we do full mitigation, which means that events like this continue to happen, we sensitize people, we try as much as possible to cut anthropogenic sources of climate change, then we are actually going to do, to be able to achieve the 1.5 degrees Celsius limit of temperature rise, which we feel will be able to mitigate the impacts of climate change. So, I want to appeal to this House that this should continue to be an ensuing discussion. You know, in our church, we don't stop preaching because the story has been told. Every Sunday we gather again and remind ourselves about what we already know. So I will suggest that these discussions should continue in various forms, in various levels, at various fora, and in the various organizations in our households. And so if we continue these discussions, then we can have the Climate and Clean Air Coalition to reduce short-lived climate pollutants. The ultimate is that we should aspire to breathe clean air. And I want to ask this gathering, I want to ask this House, Port Harcourt, are we ready to breathe clean air? If we are ready to breathe clean air, what are we doing to make sure that we achieve this? We can only achieve this by continuing these discussions beyond this hall, by beginning to sensitize our communities, our families, and our friends, taking this message to people that are not here. Because if we do not breathe clean air, we do not breathe life. If we do not breathe life, it means that we are actually breathing death. And I don't think that there is anybody here who just wants to die just yet for avoidable causes. So I reiterate that Port Harcourt, we should aspire to breathe clean air. Abraham looked down on the city and he saw dense smoke emanating from the city as though it were coming from a furnace. And with that, Sodom and Gomorrah was destroyed. Looking at the scene that we have here, this is a fire boat that was set ablaze by the security agencies in the Bulldog Creek. The community is just living downwind. And for no fault of theirs, this community was fumigated at this level. This is what we see happening in different parts of the Niger Delta at different scales and at different times. And so, if you are driving into Port Harcourt, maybe approaching the old flyover, right, at Leventis, the Leventis flyover, almost every evening you can see scenes like this. I see it almost every evening. The boys' company, where we usually sit to relax, you will see that that place is constantly being fumigated virtually every evening, because there is the source of producing these kinds of smoke that is just right within Port Harcourt City, very close to Government House. Of course, everybody knows what is going on. And then nobody is doing anything, including you and I. And so if we aspire to breathe clean air, and we cannot say no to this, then I do not know what else to say. And this is the proof that the city is being destroyed, just as in the days of Sodom and Gomorrah. Okay, so I start. The continuous deterioration of air quality in Port Harcourt metropolis during the past 5 years has caused a lot of public outcry and anxiety. We have these regular observed carbonized aerosols, generally referred to as black soot, descending on the city as dry deposition. And it contains particulate matter, tiny particulate matter. It has been described as PM10 and PM2.5. We already know that from previous speakers. It is suspended in the lower troposphere, inhibiting cloud formation and capable of causing long-term environmental and health hazards to residents in Port Harcourt and its environs. We keep saying Port Harcourt. This phenomenon is observed in some other cities around the region, as has already been highlighted by previous speakers. The soot is everywhere, ubiquitous. These were attempts in 2016, 2017 by different civil society organizations in Port Harcourt that sensitized the public to the effects of the soot. Coastal communities that are very close to these artisanal refineries suffer the brunt of this, just as most parts of the River State and in Niger Delta at large. So this black soot envelops every sphere of our daily blackened existence. You go to your house, you travel and leave your houses for a few days, and you come back. Just take a swipe on your bed, your beddings, your bedspread, and then you will see what the bed that you dressed neatly and left the house, came back 2 days later, you've locked your house, and then that is what you find. So on a daily basis, even as you're sleeping in your houses, the soot is descending on you, and you're inhaling the soot, and it's actually having very tremendous impact on your life. Air is a non-visible form of matter and one of the most important of Earth's resources, without which life cannot exist on Earth. So air is the number one resource that we need to survive. We can stay without water for a while, but we cannot stay without air for so long. And the air that we breathe, the quality of the air that we breathe, has an impact on our daily lives. Studies that have been carried out have shown the various concentrations of the pollutant types that we have within the air, and their concentrations, and then the allowable limits. And we see this pollutant type, the PM2.5, lead, nickel, cobalt, polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons, and TPH in concentrations that are above the allowable maximum daily means. We have several studies have characterized these pollutants and their sources. Open air burning such as this contributes these materials. Then, the sources of these pollutants, we've done some kind of remote sensing to also find exactly the regions where we have a concentration of the sources of this soot. At various parts of the city at various times, these are the things that we see on a daily basis. And then to say that the condensation nuclei in smoke is hydrophobic, and so it inhibits cloud formation and also distorts rainfall patterns within the city. That is already been commonly felt. As we can see that rainfall patterns around the region has been altered. We are having storms in December. So, looking at dispersion models and pollutant load sources, we did an imagery and we saw that this is a map of River State. The red boxes show areas where we have seen concentration of artisanal refining activities that contribute these soot issues. There are about 217 artisanal refineries that have been identified in the parts of the eastern Niger Delta alone, contributing various amounts of smoke and soot to fumigate the city. The distance of travel, especially for PM 2.5, it has been discovered that PM 2.5 can travel over hundreds of kilometers. So from the sources from which these things are being produced to more than 100 kilometers from where the sources are, we have this particulate matter that are being carried by the airways. So even if you are not sitting next door to an artisanal refinery, you are capable of being impacted. And then in these crude forms of refineries, this is what happens in remote areas where we don't see. And that is another scene. And so, we've also done some studies in meteorology to find out why the concentration of soots is found at particular locations and at particular times of the year. And so we did a 10-year study of the past 10-year studies collecting data, meteorological data, that tell us the number of rain days and rainfall amounts through this period. And that is represented in that graph. We also looked at temperature variations within the period for the past 10 years. And then this also showed us the mean diurnal temperatures. Percentage humidity and cloud cover was also looked at and correlated with the intensity of the soot that we have from time to time. So we see that this dry deposition and this soot is seasonally controlled. It intensifies during the dry season. The reason not being far-fetched, because the rains help to wash down the soot from the atmosphere. But in the dry season, you have it a high concentration. So, most of the times of the day as you wake up, you see the formation of haze and visibility becomes very reduced. This comes what we call ground level air pollution. So, the implications of this observed phenomenon, the ecological damage to plants that I've already mentioned, increased health hazards that I will not bother mentioning because the next speaker will tell us that, and then increased cost of house care. We have to clean and clean and clean again. Of course, each time you're going to do your laundry, you're going to spend some money. If you were supposed to do laundry twice or thrice a week, and you have to do it 7 days a week, that means your cost is as multiplied twofold. And so this hits your pocket. Reduction in aesthetic value. Our surroundings are no longer neat and tidy. You can see the chekeleke as we saw it, a white, beautiful bed that has now been blackened. So, at this point, ladies and gentlemen, I want all of us to resolve that coming from this conversation, we will all take positive steps to stop this menace, stop this suit. The health impact will be discussed, but just let's look at this. We have said the submicron particulate nature penetrate the alveoli, which means that they are respirable. So the PM10, you can inhale them, they will hang in your upper respiratory systems, and you can cough it out. But the PM2.5 is capable of penetrating your alveoli and getting to your circulation system. So that means that this can actually, if it gets to the circulatory system, it can actually even be lodged in your brain and cause a lot of dangers that I know the doctor or the medical doctor will talk about. Let me leave all that. So what do we do? Like 2 slides and then are we done? The first thing is that we have to stop these sources of pollution. But We know that various sources have been identified, but the chief among these is the coal fire industry. When I stepped into this hall at about 10:30, the place was hot and humid. But now, it's now cool because this power has been turned on, obviously from the power plant that we have outside. If I ask the facility managers where they get their diesel from, maybe they will not want to tell me in the public. But in truth, it has gotten a good percentage of the diesel that we use to power these systems. Without the diesel, we would not see this PowerPoint. Without the diesel, by now, we'll be finding ourselves, we will not be comfortable in this house. The diesel is being produced by these poor fire boys. In fact and indeed, it is my personal position, not that of my organization or anybody I represent, but as a researcher, I have taken this position, that in fact and indeed, these boys or these men and women are doing us a great service. When last did our refineries produce? No one can remember. It's over 5-10 years. Produced a liter of diesel. Without diesel, this economy will shut down. And these boys identified this need and this failure, and they stepped in to do us a great service at the risk of their own lives, because some of them get burnt to death. And all I hear is stop them, send JTF after them, chase them around and all that. We'll do that in the day and go back at night to beg them to continue to produce. So my suggestion or my recommendation, the key recommendation that I feel will solve this problem is, yes, I heard before I give that key recommendation, that you cannot use illegality to stop illegality, or you cannot use force to instill peace. For the fact that we need these fuels as a source of power to drive our economy, we should for once appreciate the services of the coal fire practitioners. However, we should train them and form them into responsible groups whom we can control and regulate. And therefore, I propose. I've heard the government say that, yes, they want to provide modular refineries. I've seen licenses being granted to some modular refineries. I've taken a look at the modular refineries that have been licensed and are being installed. These modular refineries, the scope, the scale, and the size of these refineries are still mega refineries beyond the reach of these poor fire boys that are actually making a living from this business. Therefore, I am saying that we have different research institutes, universities, and professionals in the region. We don't lack them. Why don't we take a critical look at the systems with which these boys are using to refine this crude? And I was told by a report that SDN released that the quality of diesel that the coal fire boys produce is of a higher quality than the one that is being imported into the country. In which case, Nigeria exports sweet crude and imports dirty fuel. And the boys, in spite of the crudeness of their equipment, have painstakingly been able to refine products that are of a better quality than the one that is being imported. So why don't we commend them? So I think that the small refinery units that these boys are using should be, somewhat tweaked, and certain systems put in place that will actually scrub the smoke particles, the particulate matter that is being emitted. And it is not witchcraft that we cannot understand, because even local boys that have not gone to school have used local technology with which they use to boil kai, to do these things. So my take is that cellular refineries, not modular refineries. Well, we can have modular refineries, but cellular refineries should be commissioned. These boys should be arranged into cooperatives, and then they should be licensed. The question that many people ask When you license them to begin to operate, where will they get their crude from? Of course, when they are licensed, they now become people who are not faceless, but people who are known. They will no longer go to hit the pipelines by night because they are legit. So they will do their activities by day, right? They will not fear JTF coming after them because they are licensed, right? Now, they will pay for their crude and still make profit. The question is how? Because they are doing these things by night and they are hurriedly stealing the crude, they steal a lot of, they spill a lot of it, which is also waste to the system. Now, because they are using crude methods to refine these oils into the fuels that we need, they waste a whole lot. The fractions that they throw into the fire that produces the problem can actually be refined into the heavier oils and the waxes that are used for various purposes. So the fraction of their product that they cannot control, the ones that they spill into the environment, the ones that they waste, if they actually harness these ones, if they actually take control of these ones under this cellular refinery system that I am proposing, then that is where they will make the profit with which they can pay for the crude and buy every liter or every barrel of crude that they will need. And number 3, they will not need to pay the JTF. And I hear that they pay huge sums of money to the security agencies. So if they do not need because they are legit, then that fund will also be part of the basket with which they can use to acquire the crude in a legitimate manner. And finally, they will pay taxes to government and become responsible citizens. And this is an industry that we can have in the region here. And I want to challenge this house. Artisanal refiners in the Niger Delta are seen as criminals. We have artisanal miners in the north. And then they have free access to these things. Nobody is chasing them. So why should they chase us? So if the government cannot organize things, as governments are not interested in organizing things, if these boys have come out to do these things, I think we should support them. I think we should legitimize them and then allow them to do their due in peace. Finally, I will only say one more thing about air quality management authorities. The government and from civil organizations such as our gathering here should establish an air quality management authority, which should be the authority that will oversee the air quality data that is being gathered from various stations, as was suggested by previous speakers, and collect the data and keep the data and continue to oversee the air quality in our states and in our region. With this, I end my epistle. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Gadom. That's a wonderful one. Another round of applause for him, please. Please permit me to humbly and respectfully plead with us. Can we take a decision to sponsor ourselves, to participate in that program? Also, commit resources, our resources, to ensuring that programs like this hold across states that are affected by the suit. Some persons have made this to come to pass. We're going to recognize them at the appropriate time. But I think that it is something that we all need to participate in. And when we come to that discussion, would like everybody to pencil your name if you're interested in doing one thing. I look forward to organizing or replicating this in Bayelsa State. And I look forward to inviting as many persons that are interested to come and attend. We need to begin to discuss with ourselves, discuss with the government, and find solutions to this. Please let us put another round of applause to our presenter who has made it clear. He has told us his perspective and what he thinks should be done. We should encourage the boys that are involved in Kpofire. That's a discussion that we can begin to look at. But quickly, before my brother comes to me, sir, just a moment. Let me just quickly do this. Just a moment while you're also here with me. Let me just recognize, with the support of our able Rotarian here, Rotarian Sofri Dapa, President Rotary Club of Port Harcourt, Rebisi Kingdom, you're welcome. May I also recognize Rotarian Kingsley Ikoku, President, Rotary Club of Port Harcourt North, as well as our past Assistant Governor, Rotarian Julius Aguni. You're all welcome. All right. Before we take the last presentation, before and then we go into plenary session, we'd like to invite somebody who is working in an organization that needs to say something about what's going on, what are they currently doing, particularly with respect to restoring the environment in the Ogoni area. May I invite Mr. Onis Emem, representing High Prep here, to tell us briefly what's going on at that level before we take the last presentation, which is going to, of course, look at the health implications. So I hope, Doctor, you are prepared for it.
Thank you very much. He just introduced me. MC, thank you. My name is Onisoswea MM, and I'm representing Professor Philip Shekolo in this meeting briefly. And he's not available absent. He's in Abuja now. We specifically have a meeting with the Federal House of Reps on a host community. I also want to extend his greetings and that of the management of High Prep to each and every one of us here. In particular, I thank the speaker, Dr. Ferdi, done a good job, and I think that is his area. We will not lack any information from that aspect. You can just meet him. What we've spoken here, we all know about it. Ferdi have done a good job on it. Another speaker, they've done a good job on it. It's not hidden at all. What do? I just whisper to my table mates on the solution. What we're supposed to be looking at now, solution. And I just dotted some here. One, I mentioned engagement should move upward to policymakers and government. Then secondly, we should keep talking and walking the talk alongside. We should not be quiet. We should not feel cold about the soot issue. Then thirdly, soot pollution offenders should be punished accordingly. There should be enforcement of law. When there is no law, there's anarchy, and with what we are experiencing in our climate, there's a kind of anarchy. Then fourthly, government should legislatively empower communities in monitoring their communities against the issue of hydrocarbon pollution and others. You see, what we are talking here is beyond the way we are looking at. When communities take ownership of infrastructure within their domain, they will do it even far better. Somebody made mention of the issue of the ask a chief, and the chief started giving one reason to the other. Because there is no legislation backing them up to take ownership of the infrastructure within their domain, most likely because of exclusive list issue. Then fifthly, continuous monitoring, that's air quality monitoring and publication of results in public domain. We should not hide information, no matter how bad they are or no matter how good they are. It should be made available in the public domain, in social media. Look at where we are. Look at what we are passing through. Look at our condition. Look at our circumstance. Then lastly, hydrocarbon substances, both solid and liquid, should be disposed appropriately. We observe that the video presenter, they didn't mention only crude oil. They mention other components of crude oil. We have like tire and all that. They should be disposed appropriately. So these are just some few solutions I just picked out to mention in this engagement conference we have. Somebody said it should not be a conference also. So we should look into it and continue the talk. So before I started, the MC made introduction and said that I should let us know in brief what we are doing in Ogoni. What we are doing in Ogoni land is the implementation of the environmental assessment of Ogoni land, which I was part of the assessment, including one of the speakers, Dr. Ferdinand, very knowledgeable about the environmental issue too. So the top project we have is remediation of soil and groundwater, followed by provision of potable water, then sustainable livelihood, which is somehow targeted to the artisanal refiners. And we also have a bit of a health program as well. In the remediation, we've done a bit significant work. Actually, it is not the whole of Ogoni that is impacted. The report is there. So I will not go much. What I will advise is that we should try as much as we can to lay hands on the report. The report has come that the federal government should implement all that were recommended there. And that is what HYPREP is saddled with. And I will not leave this place without telling us one of the issue, the challenge, the key risk. What? Political interference. I want to mean political interference bordered on leadership, from social stage to social stage. So I will also appeal that we should, whatever information we get about HYPREP we'll be hearing outside, we should take time, to come to HYPREP and ask how we are going about the project. I know that SDM is fully involved in what we are doing. They have something that they've carried out as regards the livelihood program. So, ladies and gentlemen, key stakeholders, chairman and co-chair of this organization, I want to say thank you very much for the privilege, the opportunity to stand before you, to just give you a tidbit of what HYPREP is doing. We are still very much willing to partner and to collaborate with Stop Soot campaign. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Onis. Another round of applause for him. We have come to that time that we want to look at the health implications. And I think this is the high, the high point that we are waiting for. Have you taken time to go to the hospital this recent past? Have you seen the number of patients and what kind of illnesses that people are facing? Young women in particular, men and women, all inclusive. I've had an experience where a woman who had breast cancer, and of course I'm not a medical doctor, but the medical doctor who was in this town, they came from Bayelsa, and the medical doctor I was in charge was telling the parents that there is nothing anybody can do about it. And therefore they should either take her back home or probably try some other place. And somehow she overheard what the medical doctor was saying. And when the parents went to try to take her out to some other place, because of that feeling, how can we take her back home and leave her and watch her to die? And then she called on to the parents and said, why not keep the resources and do tests around other members of the family, just so that it doesn't get as bad as mine. I mean, this is, I don't know if it is touching, but this is reality. And so we have come to that time that we want to call on a medical practitioner, somebody who is going to be taking us on the topic that we're all waiting to listen to, which is, soot and its implications on health. Let us invite, with a rousing applause, let us invite Dr. B. Briggs. You're welcome, sir.
Good afternoon, all. And for the want of time, I beg to stand on the already established protocol. My name is Dr. B. Briggs. I'm a public health physician and an environmental advocate. Unfortunately for me, 60% of what I'm to present have been presented by the speakers before me. But because of the time I have, I want to lend my voice to some of the suggestions that have been raised by my colleague, the speakers before me. And that is the fact that yesterday I had a TV show where I had to talk about the suit and the conference for today. And I did mention in that platform that we have before now criminalized these artisanal refiners. And this conference we are exploring a win-win situation. If we must have the cooperation of the artisanal refiners, the fire business people, then we must not call them criminals. Whether we like it or not, I've been part of the Stop the Soot campaign from 2017 till today. And one of the meetings we held with the DPR people, they told us that in the last 6 years, they've not produced kerosene. Our refineries have not been functional. And then there is a problem, a shortage of supply. Of course, 75% of our population use kerosene for their domestic use. So the go-fire people bridge this gap. Yes, the activities are illegal, but they provide solution. They provide solution. The problem we have with them is that their activities are affecting our health adversely. So our engagement with them will be, how can we train them to carry out their activities in such a way that our health will not be affected or impacted adversely? And that's why we are holding this conference. And I believe if we carry this discussion on outside this environment to our communities, we'll begin to have them come close because we see them as partners in progress. Because we cannot look at the issue of artisanal refining in isolation. Something led to something. If the government from the beginning and the IOCs were responsible enough, people wouldn't have thought of thinking outside the box to go and steal crude oil from the pipelines to do artisanal refining. So if we want to solve the problem, we need to go back to the very root causes and then provide solutions that will holistically address the problem. And all our recommendations are targeted towards the artisanal refiners. Yes, in the studies that have been carried out, we found out two principal actors in the soot in Port Harcourt. Number one is gas flaring. Number two is artisanal refining. Artisanal refining is just about maximum 10-15 years now. Roughly 10-15 years. But gas flaring has been there since the 1950s. Why are we not talking about that? Why are we not talking about that? The IOCs are now saints. We don't want to talk about them. They are also culpable. And we must also call them to account. We also have to call on government at all levels. Every time we talk about they set a deadline for the stoppage of gas flaring. They extend the deadlines. They extend it because government see it as a way of revenue generation. When you flare gas, you pay a certain amount of money as penalty. So instead of addressing the problem, being sincere to stop gas flaring, they see it as an avenue for revenue generation, and so they keep extending it. That must stop. That should be part of the things we should call for. On that note, please, let me not bore you. I'm a little bit emotional about this thing, so my slides, please. In the last 5 years, the atmosphere of Port Harcourt and its environs have been polluted by the black particulate matter popularly called black soot, which is a byproduct of the incomplete combustion of fossil fuel. Now, what is health? Because what we're talking about is the impact of the soot on our health. And I always tell people whenever I have an opportunity to make presentations, that health is an absolute term. If you look at the WHO definition of what health is, then I can assure us that none of us here is healthy because health is absolute. By the definition, it says health is a complete physical, mental, or social well-being and not merely the absence of disease or infirmity. So it means that when we see a patient, like if I'm talking to you, I'll say you are apparently healthy looking, because if we take some blood samples and just run some tests, we'll find out that there are some illnesses going on in your system that is yet to manifest clinically. All right? So the soot is a fine particulate matter from the incomplete combustion of fossil fuel. And now, the very basic characteristic of the soot, my previous speakers talked about PM10, PM 2.5. Now, as medical practitioners, we are more concerned about the 2.5 in the sense that it gets to the alveolar spaces. As I get along, I'll explain. It's so minute. We can't see it. In this room where we are all seated, the soot is everywhere. We are inhaling it every second of every day. It's just that the concentration is higher at certain times of the day, like at night when our brothers are at work, okay? But it's everywhere. We can't see it except with the aid of an electron microscope. If an electron microscope is here and you view the atmosphere where we are doing this conference now, you will see that the soot is everywhere and we inhale it every time. Now, it's because of its sheer size and how it goes right from through the nostrils down to the alveolar spaces and to our bloodstreams. That's why it gets the effect, because it can get to the circulation. It can get to the circulation. And that is why it is very dangerous, and it causes all the adverse health implications that you're going to see as we go on. WHO defines air pollution as a contamination of the indoor or outdoor environment by any chemical, physical, or biological agent that modifies the natural characteristics of the atmosphere. WHO says that 4.2 million deaths occur globally due to air pollution, 3.8 million deaths annually due to household exposure to smoke. Greater than 50% of premature deaths due to pneumonia among children under 5 is due to soot. I'll give you a second to digest that. That more than 50% of premature deaths due to pneumonia among under 5 children is due to soot. And sometimes when you see these statistics, you begin to think that how possible. Just take a visit to the hospitals, go to the emergency wards, go to the children pediatric wards, and you find out that these things, sometimes they are even underreported. Because in our environment especially, people don't come to the hospital until it is almost late. Like the issue of the breast cancer you talked about. Okay? They will not come. They will say, they have these superstitious beliefs that somebody wants to kill them, but it's a medical condition. So there are so many deaths that occur without getting to the hospital, so that statistics are not. So when you see such statistics, you know that it's not a true reflection of what is truly on ground. Because in our environment, not everybody comes to the hospital. Most people, because of poverty, illiteracy, religion, cultural beliefs, and other factors, they don't get to come to the hospital, and yet they die from those diseases. So these statistics do not truly reflect the true picture on the ground. Now, 9 out of 10 people worldwide live in places where air quality exceeds WHO guideline. When the Rivers State Ministry of Environment in 2017 conducted the preliminary investigation, they found out that the polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons that pollute the atmosphere of Port Harcourt is 11 times higher than WHO recommended limits. 11 times higher. Rivers State Ministry of Environment. A study conducted by E.A. Mitchell and published by WHO found that maternal tobacco smoking during pregnancy can increase the risk of sudden infant death syndrome 5 times. Now, this is very key. Tobacco smoking. In my subsequent slides, I'll show us tobacco and the cigarette stick. It does have a filter, right? It does have its filter. So this filter helps to trap some of the hydrocarbons that should have otherwise been smoked into the system. All right? And no sane human being smokes 24 hours a day. Is there anybody that smokes 24 hours a day? At least there will be break in between. And yet, for a mother that smokes, her fetus is likely to die 5 times from sudden infant death syndrome. Now imagine soot that we inhale 24 hours. The risk should be about 20, 30, 50 times that of someone that smokes. It is believed that this increased risk is due to exposure of the fetus to the tobacco smoke while the baby is in the womb. A child that is yet to be born is already suffering consequences of air pollution as we find ourselves. So most of the children we are giving birth to today are already suffering from that condition. Whether you know it or not, whether you accept it or not, it is the truth. It's just a matter of time before we begin to see the manifestations clinically. In a research finding done by Dr. Norris Liu, presented to and published by the European Lung Foundation on the 16th of September 2018, titled First Evidence That Soot from Polluted Air is Reaching the Placenta. Before now, scientists were kind of speculating, are you sure truly the soot gets to the placenta? Are you sure the baby is truly affected? This study that was done and presented to the European Lung Foundation confirmed that actually the soot gets to the placenta. And of course, you know the placenta is a connection between the baby and the mother. It is from the placenta that blood and nutrients from the mother gets to the baby, and waste products from the baby is also excreted through the placenta to the maternal system and is discharged. Now, Percival Port in 1775 demonstrated that polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons were responsible for the increase in incidence of scrotal cancer among chimney sweeps in the UK. As a sweep, the soot enters the atmosphere, they inhale it, and over time, most of those chimney sweeps came down with scrotal cancer. So is it possible that this soot that we inhale every day, and we have been inhaling for the past 6, 7, 8 years, can cause cancer? Is it possible? Yes, it is possible. A study that has been conducted centuries before. Lillis Young et al. 2019 conducted a research from 2014 to 2016 to associate ambient air pollution and birth defects. Out of 153,822 births, 5,021 had birth defects, accounting for about 3.9%. Birth defects are abnormal formations of the organs of the body during development of the child while in the womb. And this is ambient air pollution. So you see children coming down with spinal bifida. You see children coming down with hydrocephalus. You see children coming down with anencephaly. You see children coming down with Down syndrome and all the other chromosomal abnormalities, even sickle cell diseases and all that. It can cause. Soot can cause it. Let's come down here because we're talking about Port Harcourt, is it not? And Port Harcourt is a representation of the Niger Delta. So whatever we are talking about Port Harcourt is applicable to other regions of the Niger Delta. Just recently, we knew what happened in Nembe or ML29, where AOTO, Eastern E&P, they've been spewing gases and crude for more than 30 days. It was just yesterday they were managed to shut down that well. For 30 days, if you look at the river at that St. Barbara, it's like a milkshake. If you saw the first video and the videos weeks later, you would think that it's a milkshake. You can just go and fetch milk and drink, but it's pollution. If you look at the mangrove around the wellhead there, they are all gone. That's how dangerous the pollution is. So what we are talking about, Port Harcourt, is what is also obtainable in other parts of the Niger Delta. But in this case, we are talking about Port Harcourt. What I'm saying that what we talk about Port Harcourt is also applicable elsewhere because the pollution is not restricted to only Port Harcourt. Now, a recent study done in Port Harcourt by Inkpe Abe et al. 2007 revealed a birth defect prevalence of 20.73 per live births in Port Harcourt. Now, compare that statistic to the southeast, which is 4.15 per 1,000 live births. In the southwest, 15.84 per 1,000 live births. And northeast, 5.51 per 1,000 live births. You see that what is happening here is exponentially higher than any other region in the Niger Delta. What can be responsible in your own view, if not the suit? We are in a very dire situation. Another study done in Port Harcourt by Laura et al. 2007 established that major percentage of males in Port Harcourt have different degrees of structural anomalies in their spermatozoa. I deliberately paused for a few seconds so you digest that information. Maybe I should take it again. A study done in Port Harcourt by Laura et al. 2017 established that major percentage of males in Port Harcourt have different degrees of structural anomalies in their spermatozoa. And let me explain, just in case it's too much of a grammar. For you to fertilize or to have a capacity to impregnate a woman, your sperm must be healthy structurally. All right? Good head, good body, good tail. Okay? The tail helps to, like a propeller, to move the sperm from the vagina upon discharge into the womb, to the fallopian tubes, to the ovaries where the eggs are coming out for fertilization. anything that causes, for instance now, when we talk about structure, if the tail is not there and the body and the head is there, what will propel it? You just discharge into the vagina and it stays there because the engine that is to propel it is not there again. And that is what we are just saying, that majority of males resident in Port Harcourt, their sperm cells have abnormalities, structural abnormalities, which means they cannot impregnate women. So I've given a presentation before when I talked about the soot having the capacity to cause infertility, and somebody was arguing. This is not a study done by me. It was done in 2017, and that is what is there. So yes, the soot can cause infertility. This is a study for males. It can also cause infertility for females. So some of the females that have been accused by their mother-in-laws of being reckless in their younger years and they cannot give birth, please don't look for the cause too far. Sometimes those women may be very decent people, but they are just suffering from the consequences of the soot. Another study done by Femeka, a very senior pediatric consultant in a tertiary hospital, she did a retrospective study and she found out that there has been an increase in respiratory diseases in children under the age of 5. And this study was done in the River State University Teaching Hospital in 2018. Now, in 2018, the results of preliminary investigations done by the River State Ministry of Environment revealed exponentially high levels of soot in Port Harcourt. This has been said by other speakers. So, sources of soot, gas flaring, artisanal refining. Let's not bore you. You already know that. The composition of the soot: carbon, nitrogen oxide, sulfur dioxide, benzopyrene, benzofluoroanthane, benzocarbazole, phenethridine, benzoacridine, fluoroanthane. These are the composition of the soot according to the River State Ministry of Environment when they did their preliminary study in 2017. And Professor Blessing Didier was part of, well, then he was the Vice Chancellor of the River State University. He was part of that, and he granted an interview, and he said these are very highly carcinogenous substances. So for those of you that are doubting whether or not the soot can cause cancers, feel free to pick any of the names here and Google it yourself whether our claims are true or we're just blowing the trumpet for no reason. How does the effect of the soot come about? The soot contacts the respiratory epithelium, induces what we call the oxidative stress. The cell's mitochondrial activity is affected. Autophagic and apoptotic mechanisms are affected. There is methylation of the DNA. That's the DNA gets destroyed in the nucleus, and then subsequently, the nucleus begins to produce defective DNAs. That's what is responsible for what you see as cancers, growth, tumor growths, and all that. In the systemic toxicity, the soot triggers inflammatory response, the release of chemokines and cytokines. Immune cells release interleukin-13 and transforming growth factor. The summary of everything is that it causes oxidative stress that releases free radicals. It is these free radicals that destroys the cells of the body and manifest all the complications of the soot that we see, and we're going to talk about as we progress. Now, this is a picture showing the alveoli and the lung spaces. Are you seeing the pointer? The downside there now is the alveolar spaces. That's where the actual gaseous exchange takes place. Now, there's a very important mechanism of action. Why the soot is dangerous. In the alveoli, where gaseous exchange takes place, normally what happens, deoxygenated blood is carried to the lungs, and carbon monoxide is released, and oxygen is picked up. And the oxygenated blood is carried to our heart. Our heart pumps the blood to other parts of our body. That is a normal thing. But because the red blood cells have a very high affinity for carbon, whenever there is carbon, red blood cells will not pick oxygen. They will rather pick carbon. And the chief constituent of the soot is the carbon. That is what gives it its black color. That's why in Port Harcourt it's called black soot, black soot. What makes it black is the carbon. So as we inhale the soot, instead of the red blood cells to pick oxygen, they will leave oxygen and pick carbon and directly supply this carbon to our cells. And over time, these cells get destroyed and manifest as cancers and every other medical condition that you can think about. That is why I said when I talk about this thing, you know why the 2.5 is dangerous. The PM10 is large, and the anatomy of the respiratory system is such that we have hairs and what we call ciliary processes in our nostrils and down to the respiratory tree. So if we inhale PM10, it gets trapped, if not by the hairs, by the mucosal lining that produces mucus that traps it. That's why in the morning when you wake up and you cough up the black substances, is it not? When you clean your nostrils, you see the black substances. Part of it are the P10. The P2.5 cannot be trapped because it's tiny. It's tiny. And it rather forms a covalent bond with the oxygen and gets to the alveolar spaces. Alveolar spaces, instead of the red blood cells to pick carbon, to pick oxygen, it picks carbon. Just take, for instance, you like afang soup. But in the absence of afang, you can manage egusi or okra. Any day you see afang, will you leave afang and pick egusi? Let's communicate now. Do you do that? You go for what you love, what you like. And that's what the red blood cell does. They see the carbon, they say, oh my God, where have you been? I've missed you. Oh, oxygen bed, pass one, go one corner. And they take what they like. And that which they take is what destroys us. That is why the soot PM 2.5 is very, very dangerous. Now, this is a pack of cigarettes. Before now, we used to see smokers are liable to die young. The Federal Ministry of Health told them it's a lie. How do they die young? Don't be ambiguous. Be explicit. So they now changed it. Smoking causes what? Lung cancer. And then they showed you a normal lung. It's not very clear. In the next slide you will see it. A normal lung and a smoker's lung. What's the import of this diagram? This is a better view. This is a normal lung. It's pink, is it not? The smoker's lung. Smokers, not suited lungs. So if a smoker's lung can be like this, and you and I have been inhaling soot for 7 years, just imagine. Use your imaginative powers and imagine how your lungs are. Now, also remember that those people that smoke, like I said earlier, they don't smoke 24 hours. At least they have breaks in between, is it not? So if you are here and you are smoking, and then you're still inhaling the soot, just write your will on time because your own will come faster than our own. This is the truth. And this is the pictorial representation of what I'm talking about. What are the complications of the soot? For children, for neonates and children, preterm deliveries. What are preterm deliveries? In medicine, we calculate pregnancy not in months, but in weeks. And for us, what you call 9 months is 40 weeks of pregnancy. And a pregnancy is term when it has completed 37 weeks. That is when a pregnancy has achieved 37 weeks. If the baby comes out at that time, the baby is assumed to be term baby and normal. But anything less than 37 weeks, you must be admitted in the hospital and put inside an incubator because it is believed that your organs have not matured to experience extrauterine life, to experience life outside the uterus. So we are going to keep you in an environment that is like the womb. That is the incubator. What is the effect, therefore? That those that have been affected by soot come down with preterm deliveries. That labor starts before it should start, when the baby has not matured yet. And I don't know if any of us here have had that experience where people deliver before their time and the child has to be put into an incubator. And once a child is born preterm or premature, as we usually say it in the layman's term, the chances of survival is 50-50, is it not? Once a child is not mature and is born, the child has to be put in an incubator. The chances are 50-50. So soot can cause that. Low birth weight babies. Any child born with a birth weight less than 2.5 kilogram is considered low birth weight. Acute respiratory distress syndrome. When the child is born and finds it difficult to breathe, We call it acute respiratory distress syndrome. Congenital malformations, I've talked about it. Pneumonia, sudden infant death syndrome, I've talked about that. For older children and adults, for early complications, we have skin irritation. And I've seen that a lot lately. Nausea and vomiting, confusion. How many of us know that this soot is a central nervous system depressant? It depresses your central nervous system. And once your central nervous system is depressed, one of the first manifestations you will see is confusion. Why? Because there is hypoxia. There is reduced oxygen concentration in your central nervous system. Like I said, instead of picking oxygen that will be required for the cells to survive and to be acting normally, they pick carbon. So the cells of the brain do not receive the required amount of oxygen to function optimally. You get confused. That's the effect. And soot can cause that because it's one of the complications. Then acute upper respiratory tract infections. Acute bronchial asthma. We know about asthma. Should I talk about asthma? We know about asthma. Some of us might be victims of asthma. So if you're an asthmatic patient, you know that in this period, you are having an increased frequency of attacks compared to the years before. And I've also seen people that now have acquired asthma. They never had asthma before, but because of the soot, they are now coming down with asthma. Because to a large extent, the soot too can trigger reversible narrowing of the airway. Reversible narrowing of the airway. There is constriction of the airway. So you see many people coming down with noisy breathing. So I don't know if anybody here is a victim. Maybe when we get to the preliminary plenary, people will be free to air their views and their experiences on the soot to whether confirm what we are saying or to oppose it. Delayed complications, stroke, ischemic heart diseases, chronic obstructive airway pulmonary disease, lung cancer, liver diseases, kidney diseases. We are seeing young people now coming down with kidney diseases right now. We are seeing young people of 25, 26 coming down with hypertension and cardiovascular diseases. We are seeing young people coming down with liver diseases and infertility. Infertility is on the increase. We thank God for technology. We now have IVF, we now have surrogacy, and other means of conception. I'm here with my daughter. She's 6 months old. And every night, she cannot sleep because her nostrils are congested. Yesterday and day before yesterday night was the worst of it. And I think she has a message for us. Please. She's here. I said I'll bring her here so that some of us may not truly understand what we are talking about. It will be like a far-fetched story, but some of us live with these things on a daily basis. We have the experience. This is my daughter, 6 months old, and she's here to speak for her colleagues, children that are voiceless. And what is she saying? Stop the soot. I just want to breathe. If you come close to her now, you can hear her noisy breathing now. She's sleeping right now. If anybody doubts, come close and hear her as she finds it difficult to breathe. And the night is worse. We don't sleep. The nostrils are congested. She has to breathe through her mouth. And because she's still breastfeeding, she cannot breathe. She cannot eat and breathe at the same time. So she's losing weight because she's not having adequate nutrition. Her nostrils are blocked and she has to eat or suck. And she sucks and she wants to breathe and it frustrates her. She starts crying. This is my child. And sometimes I get emotional when I talk about these things because I'm a victim. My 2-year-old son, he's not here because he's in school. In the last 6 weeks, he has missed school 2 weeks because of respiratory illnesses. This is what we see on a daily. So when we talk about complications of the soot, thank you. When we talk about complications of the soot, we're not talking in abstract terms. We are victims. Personally, I'm a victim. My family, we are victims. And I've always been a patriotic Nigerian that believe that there is a reason why God has put me in Nigeria and that I should be part of the solution and not the problem. And that is why since 2015, my colleagues have been traveling abroad, seeking greener pastures. I'm not a dollant. I can write my exams and pass and travel abroad. But because I feel that I owe this country a duty and a responsibility to provide solutions. That is why I'm here. But if my patriotism will lead to the death of my children, then don't you think I should abscond too? God forbid I abscond. Out of every 10 children under 5 I see in my clinic, 7 are due to upper respiratory tract infections. I'm seeing new cases of asthma. People who had never had asthma before coming down with asthma. I've seen cases of asthma that do not respond to conventional treatments anymore. The drugs we used to treat them before, when you apply them, it doesn't work anymore. That's what we are seeing. I don't know why that is so. Well, like I said before, younger people are coming down with hypertensive heart diseases. Younger people are dying of cardiac arrest. Earlier this year, we saw the PDP chairman in Andoni local government in a wedding ceremony. He was dancing and he was being videoed. All of a sudden, he fell down. People thought it was part of the dance. I don't know if we saw that video. It went viral. He's a young man, and he died of cardiac arrest. I'm not saying that it is directly due to the suit, but it's probable. It's probable. Unfortunately, we're in a climate where researches are not encouraged. We're in a climate where autopsies are not done to know the cause of death so that we can prevent the living from having similar issues. As a public health physician, I don't think I would have done justice if I don't talk about prevention, because that's exactly what public health does. We will always believe that prevention is better than cure. And of course, we talk about prevention at 3 levels. The primary level, when we talk about primary prevention, we're talking about the problem has not occurred. But what are the things you need to do to prevent the problem from occurring ab initio? Then the secondary prevention, the problem has occurred. What are the things you need to do to stop it or to treat the problem? Then number 3, rehabilitating the problem. Seeing how you can help people go through the problem successfully. That's what we do. So I've proposed provision of basic social amenities such as constant power supply, well-equipped hospitals, registration of all pregnancies for antenatal care with skilled and qualified health professionals, provision of employment for teeming unemployed youths, inclusion of oil-bearing communities in the business of oil and gas exploration and exploitation, ensuring IOCs conduct their businesses in line with best international practices. Government should empower environmental agencies with finance and equipment to implement and enforce environmental laws, better remuneration for officers and men of the security agencies, restructuring of the security agencies to be proactive rather than reactive. Security agents should return all stolen crude back to the refineries instead of setting them ablaze. Collaboration of government at all levels with civil society, traditional community leaders, religious groups, youth groups, women and media organizations in protecting the environment in a sustainable manner, enlightenment campaigns on the need to secure and protect the environment, especially the air quality, stop gas flaring and artisanal refining, implement modular refineries, and now cellular refineries as said by Dr. Ferdinand Giadon, as soon as possible. Identification and containment of pollution at source, use of anti-oxidizing drugs, remediation of the environment where pollution occurs immediately, provision of specialized health facilities to cater for victims of identified health hazards of soot, payment of compensation to victims of the soot. I hope I have not bored you. Thank you.
Please, we need much more than that. I understand the level of emotions that I think this is the high point of our presentations today, and you would understand why we left it to this point.
Please, I don't mean to be melodramatic, but I think we need to give Dr. B.A. Briggs a standing ovation.
Thank you so much, Dr. Briggs. Thank you so much. May we please take our seats? And let us not go back home and look at this issue as something that we can probably address with lip service. Apparently, it has come, and we must find solutions to it. Dr. Briggs, you've done a wonderful job. At that point where he brought his child, I almost shed tears. I was almost crying with him. And I know how painful it would be. And most of us may be suffering this. And the soot is a major challenge. How do we address it? That's what we need to begin to talk about. That's what we need to begin to look at. I mean, so like someone said, it shouldn't be a conference, it should be a conversation. This should continue in our houses, in our homes, on the streets, in our offices. I wish that we have the leadership of various state governments coming to participate in programs like this and understand what this means to the lives of people who live in the Niger Delta. And I wish we could also get the national government to come and witness some of these challenges that we're experiencing so they understand the level of confusion. When probably he mentioned the issue of every male, having structural anomalies, some persons might be saying, well, I don't live in Port Harcourt. But the point is that if you leave Port Harcourt, it might be nomadic. Yeah. I don't know. So it's a major challenge. Well, I lack words to express myself at this point in time, but I think that this has actually told us what we need to begin to look at going forward. We expect that so many more of this kind of conversations should take place. We expect that we need to be holding meetings to ensure that we address the issues that have been profiled, and more solutions, maybe when we get to the plenary session, will be coming up. At this juncture, I'd like to tell us briefly what are the things that we need to do going forward with respect to the program that we have. I hope our dance group is ready. Let's just have some moment. Of course, I know that we're all emotional about this. I want to go into plenary sessions. Let's look at issues objectively. And I would like to say that the dance drama group should get ready. We also have air quality monitoring equipment here. There are some persons who will be here. And I hope you're going to give the MC one as a marketing, as marketing for that product. But they're going to tell us probably the air quality in this room. So we're also going to get them here, to show us that equipment and to tell us how to use it, and probably do, a demonstration of the air quality within the confines of this environment that we find ourselves. And then probably we will be doing the plenary session and community voices. Ken Henshaw is supposed to be handling that, but I've been told that he's unavoidably absent, and so we want to plead with Barrister Nero Wills to take that as well as the next, which is the last, Soot Solution Action Plan and post-conference agenda, so that we will design what we need to do going forward. Having said that, just to have some moments to lighten up our spirit, let me invite the dance drama group by Dan Bodo. You're welcome.
If you are locked up and the keys thrown away, what will you do? This was not what we bargained for. Yes, was it what we bargained for? Soot is killing us. Go to the hospitals and see people who are sick. Visit the mortuary. And we are saying nothing about it. People are dying daily.
Every morning when I wake up, say make I go clean my motor. So different colors of waiting, I don't know the color. Now they see. Color rainbow. Make I tell you now, say, every one of us, they affected one way or the other. You. People, you. Oh yeah, make all of now, carry on our hand, put this hand on our nose. Chook them inside. Again, I have come water. When do you want to see? One thing concern me and black suit. One thing concern me and black suit. Nothing concern me and black suit. My own, he said, because we in Alabama, that they make money, nine concern me. Therefore, if you die as market woman, it don't concern me. If you don't die as pikin, it don't concern me. Now make I make my money with my bonfire. Hey, engineer, what do you concern Adolo with overload? What do you concern Adolo with overload? Nothing concern me with people life. Whether market woman know, whether children know, my own are to make money for where I did as Alabo of fire. Engineer, start the machine. Yes, sir.
Practitioner, I can say that prayer is not the solution to this problem. There are many things you must know. Black carbon, also known as soot, is an air pollutant that is emitted during combustion reactions. This is very bad for inhalation. It is very bad for the human respiratory system.
As a medical doctor, aside from common effects of air pollution,
which includes irritation to the eyes, nose, and throat, black soot has also been associated with upper respiratory infections such as asthma, coronary heart diseases, cancerous and non-cancerous infections, as well as illnesses that are dangerous to the respiratory systems.
This cannot continue.
No!
We must do something about it.
Yes, we must do something about it. We must be the change, and we must make that change now.
Yes. This is a war against black soot, a war against those who sacrifice our life for the cause of black soot.
Thank you. Don't go yet. Please, can we, like we did for Dr. Briggs, is this message captivating? It is lovely. Can you tell us a little about yourself, please? Just a little.
This is Active Playhouse Productions, and then we are into productions. We do stage performances and dances. The reason for this is to sanitize the people against this disease affecting, this suit affecting us. That's why we put this together. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. It's okay. That's wonderful. Let's give them a round of applause as they walk back to take their seats. This is to tell us that prayers will not solve the suit. We have to take steps scientifically and do something ourselves to stop the challenge that we are facing. Can we also immediately invite Tronics, Africa.com to quickly come and do a demonstration of the air quality within this environment? Do we have them here? Do we have the person representing TronicsAfrica.com? While we are waiting for them, if they are here, I'd like to also invite or ask, plead with Barrister Nero to begin to prepare his session, which is supposed to be suit solution, action plan, stroke post-conference agenda. We will be inviting you to lead the plenary session and community voices, and then you dovetail into the action agenda. But do we have the person with the equipment? Wonderful. So let's just watch, know what the challenge is, and probably begin to use the machine, as part of a mitigatory process in cleaning the air quality, or probably find out the air quality in the spaces that we find ourselves. Tell us about yourself, the equipment, and how it works. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Aquila. I am the COO of Tronics Labs Limited. Basically, I'm here to demonstrate a device that we have developed for monitoring air quality. So first of all, introduction to what we do at Tronics. We are basically an IoT lab. We develop hardware devices for different purposes. We have IoT switches, and we also have an air quality monitoring device called AirSign. Okay, sorry. Where am I supposed to? Okay, so firstly, why did we do an air quality monitoring device? A lot of speakers have come today and have talked about how bad the air quality in Port Harcourt and the Niger Delta in general is. The World Health Organization has said that Nigeria has the worst infant mortality rate from lung disease for children under 5. Basically what that means is that for even countries that have more population than us, like India, and also are more industrialized, they don't have as bad an air quality, or they don't have the same kind of effect that we have here. And one of the issues, the major issues we have, is the fact that access to monitoring air quality is not everywhere. There are no constant urban air monitoring centers. There are no centers even in the creeks or in the rural areas that constantly give us data about how good or how bad the air quality we have is. Most of the data we have are handled by some government agencies, and they are not complete and they are not continuous. Also, we want to make sure that people understand how bad the situation actually is. If you don't have data about a particular thing, you find it difficult to point to evidence as to the degree of the seriousness of a particular issue. So that's one of the major reasons why we've come up with this device. So it's basically a safety device that detects air quality, ambient air quality level on a continuous basis in a given environment. So what it does is it gives like a three-dimensional idea of the air quality at a given point in time. The 3 dimensions basically are the air quality, the number of pollutants in the air at that point in time. So we have time, we have location, and then we have the air quality. Why did we go this route? It's because we want to ensure that at every given point in time, the coordinates of the test, because the device is basically running a continuous test, the coordinate of the test is recorded. So if I do a sample in this room, it will tell me that by 2 o'clock at Holikins Event Center, basically GPS coordinates of this place. By 2 o'clock, we have this number of pollutants in the air, and we also have the level of air quality. The different pollutants it checks are carbon and carbon compounds. So we have CO2, carbon monoxide. It checks for black soot. It checks for acetone, ammonia, for when we are working with industrial areas, and it also checks for ozone. There are other pollutants that it checks for, but we're actually working on those. But currently, these are the current pollutants that we have. So I would like to briefly talk about why we check for carbon. The truth is, black soot is basically it basically comes from CO2. So when there is complete or incomplete combustion of any hydrocarbon, it goes into the atmosphere, and then it basically coagulates and comes back as particles. Those black particles that come down are different constituents of carbon, and that is what we know as black soot. In the Niger Delta, we have an unusually high amount of this particular particulate pollutant, and one of the major problems we have with the campaign against black soot is that, number one, at every given point in time, we can't say you can wake up in the morning and touch your car and see that your hand is black, but you can't. That is not exactly evidence enough. It is not empirical evidence to show that you have that much black soot. So what we do is we go on social media and we snap pictures and we complain. But with this, you can actually test the atmosphere and say we have this amount of pollutant in the air right now, and it's above the UN or World Health Organization standard for what the pollutant is. And then we can use that evidence to go to any quarters that we need to go to. Okay, so what are the features of this device? So basically, the device is solar powered, which means it can work in any environment. So we don't need to continuously go and charge it. It's portable. You can move it around. It's affordable. The results are instant. Once it's booted, it takes about 45 seconds to boot, and after that, you have continuous readings for every second. And then it's accessible. Why? Because anybody can actually easily get it to put it in any environment that they want to. The device has 3 basic systems where people can get alerts. It has a buzzer that shows if the amount of pollutants in the environment is too high. It actually has an alarm. It can be connected to a mobile app. And it has an on-screen display. So if you just have the device, you can see the current reading at that given point in time. So as I've mentioned before, we create historical data to the minute. We plan to implement this in as many places as possible so that we can also have like a geographical map of how much pollutants we have in each given area of the Niger Delta at every given point in time. We also plan to improve the device over time, and then we can recognize patterns. So what that means is if we've gotten data in different areas over time, and there's a sudden spike or drop, we can begin to understand that maybe there's a new activity going on, or maybe there's some improvement that has happened. Maybe there's an intervention that has happened that has made it drop, or there's a sudden spike. And if there's a sudden spike, we can easily go to that area and check to make sure that maybe there's no new artisanal refinery or so on and so forth. What are the benefits of having this device? The first thing is that people have access to accurate air quality data at every given point in time. With this device, the campaign against soot pollution will become data-driven, not just the emotions and stories. We can also have data to back it. It will help people understand the situation they are in their immediate environment, if they are safe or not. It will help map out safe zones, and then we can also understand the extent of the damage over time. Finally, it will give people the power to act. Why? Because they now have empirical evidence. They are aware. What this campaign is all about is educating people to know how bad this actual problem is. And then they can take it to legislation or the courts, and then finally, and something can actually be done. A change can be made. So finally, how it works. Basically, we have a couple of modules. We have the sensors, the GPS, and the microcontrollers. These things all link up to the device, to the displays where people can see what we have, the data that we have, or to the alarm if the readings we are getting is too high. All the data is linked up to the cloud so that we can always have that data from each device, and then it's linked up to our website or the app where people can access this data remotely, where the users can access the data remotely. Finally, I will call my our Chief Technical Officer to do a demo of the device in this environment so that we can actually check to see what the data looks like.
Good day, everyone. Actually, if you look at the screen, you'll notice some gauges on the screen. Now, what this gauge are showing, what they are showing is simply the different compounds that our device SIN detects. If there is a slight change or increase in any of these compounds, it will be reflected on the gauges. If you observe, you'll notice that that we have the section, the red zone. Let me call it the red zone. We have the red zone there. The red zones are levels based on World Health Standard that once an individual is exposed to emissions of such degree is harmful to the human health. So these devices are aimed towards making our environment safe, and we being aware that where we are is either safe or unsafe. So for the demo, we have the prototype of the one for our remote monitoring. For the purpose of this event, we just decided to it can detect more than what we have there. We have just about 5 pollutants there, but it can detect more than 5 in the actual build. But for this demo, we are doing just 5. And what we'll be using this candle. We'll be lighting it up, and then we turn it off for it to emit the carbon monoxide. If you observed, when it was turned on at first, before we lit up the candle, let me move it off the smoke a bit. It was showing at the level of 3.8 something. But with the presence of this around, though the fan is blowing the fumes out, but we can see that it has increased about a unit. Now, this was tested around environments where we had burning tires, as well as woods, as well as car exhaust pipes and all the rest, and we saw a tremendous change in the readings coming out of this. Why we decided to work on this is because for you to be able to combat anything whatsoever it is, you must know the source. And we all know that black soot comes as a result of carbon monoxide, carbon monoxide and all the rest that has to do with burning, fire, and so on. So even the generators, they contribute more to black soot. Even when we use our stoves at home, it consumes more to black soot and all the rest. So if we have devices like this, we'll be able to know wherever we have activities that is triggering the level of black soot in our society. So I feel that, or we feel that this would be a major breakthrough in the combat against black soot. So we also have another device The second one is for domestic use. The one for domestic use, it can actually detect if you have cooking gas leakage in the home, as well as if you have the carbon dioxide also in the home. This, why we decided to give you these features, because several persons have died as a result of fire outbreak in the home. So having a device like this, you'll be able to know when your gas is leaking, your gas cylinders they are leaking, or if they are safe. So if you have a leaking gas cylinder, it will indicate and you hear the beep sound coming out of the device to notify you that your life is in danger or something. So it's just for the purpose of keeping the home safe as well as keeping the environment safe for everyone. Thank you.
Yes, let's move on. We're coming to the end of the program. We're going to be calling on Steady DC for us to begin the plenary session and community voices. Now, let me say this. This is that time that we want to do what I call implementation plan. I mean, we have action plan here. And it's not to look at the problem. This session is not to look at the problem. It is to look at the solutions. If we can outline the solutions, and then at the level of action planning, we probably want to put the solutions together and know what next steps that we want to do. Are we looking at the policy level? Are we looking at more awareness raising? Are we looking at replicating what we're doing across boards, the attendance of this program? How do we get persons to be part of this program? Do we have to add incentives? Because I know as a civil society person, if there's incentive with respect to probably transport refund and all of that, we probably will have this all filled up. But we have only a few persons who are committed to this process that have come out. Of course, that's what we intended. We do not intend to get persons who probably at the end of the day will be interested to carry the discussion forward. So at this point, let me call on Steady EDC to come and support me while we look at solutions to the soot challenge that we have. Can we put a round of applause for Steady EDC? He's going to be supporting me in facilitating that process. If you have something to say, of course, this is the time that you can say what you want to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. MC. My Rotarian President, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, my name is Steady EDC. Well, like what the speaker said, it's going to be more of an interactive session. So at this stage, like I said, I want to throw the floor open for any suggestions on the way forward. We've had great speakers speak to us today on this issue of soot. So at this point, I want to throw the floor open. Anybody who has suggestions?
My name is Sonny Zova. I just want to say that most of the things they told us here are the things that we need to do. But very quickly, I was aware that the government asked that the young men that are involved in this stop the act, and that they were going to build a modular refinery and all of that. Now the cost of doing that is so high, and these boys cannot afford. Can the civil society and maybe Rotary try to impress on government to release this money or make sure that this project is done so that these boys will have to be engaged in that? Because leaving it for the boys to do that, I'm not sure they will do it. And as long as they are not able to do it, they will continue to pollute the environment. So that's my contribution.
Yeah, there's another conversation around cellular refineries. Well, can we have, he has talked about providing resources for modular refineries as one of the solution to the issue. But can we have further, comments? What are other solutions that we can bring and put on the table?
My name is Chukwudi Ejimofo. I'm a journalist. With Bloomberg. We've seen that from the discussions here, we noticed that the problem of soot hoves around human beings in the Niger Delta. we look at the human factor of solving this problem. We know ourselves. If the government is really interested in curbing this, it would have stopped before now. We know that. But the truth is that the government is paying lip service to the problem inherent in this soot problem. Can we go back to ourselves individually in our places where we know these things occur? We tell them what they have displayed here is not out of what is happening. What the dancing group, they just put it the way it is. So what I'm saying is that the problem of the suit, when the government is paying lip service to it, we, the people, we, the civil society organizations, should look inwards. Go tell the people, this thing is killing us. We are dying gradually. Not because we get petrol, we get all this thing from it. We are dying gradually. There should be this enlightenment. That's what I'm saying in essence. Tell the people, because sometimes back I saw a woman where he said, what happened now? And no one make we get kerosene. Since we go for another kerosene, no deal. You see, this is the mentality. So she does not know the problem that this kerosene she gets goes into her. So I'm talking about we're looking inwards. Talk to ourselves, talk to the people, until when the government want to solve this problem, they will solve it outrightly. Thank you.
I'm the returning president. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Remain Lebosi Sarupiagbara. I think that the issue we're dealing with here today is a very important issue. I think we're already at the point of a big crisis. It's no longer an issue, but it's a crisis that we're dealing with here. And from all the speakers, I think what we have on our hand now, if it is possible, would have said, we declare a state of emergency on the situation of soot in not just Port Harcourt, but even other parts of the state. So a few days back, I came back, and there was a friend who came back from the U.S., and when I called him 2 days ago, he told me he can't stay in Port Harcourt again. He has gone back to Abuja because of soot, the sort of soot that is experienced in his house. He got people to clean the house, and 2 days, just the same day, said what he saw. So he had to go back to Abuja because somewhere to stay in Abuja. So a few days back too, I also got a call from one of the Benny communities where people said in the afternoon or like night, because of how the entire cloud was dark because of what was going on. Yeah, the guy that was presenting on the air quality equipment talked about that we've been having things coming from generator and the kitchen. But that completely pays into insignificance when compared with what we've seen coming from artisanal refining. I think the major threat we have today, as far as soot is concerned, is not that from automobile or from the kitchen or from generator. That is coming from the artisanal refining that is going on. And that is where, of course, we need to find something to do, because I don't want to start talking about the boys. The boys, we are already buying our future. Because once we are destroying the environment in the name of generating money or the rest, we're already destroying our future. So I think that what we need to do is to see how we can take this message back to them. Because sometimes they are doing this thing without even knowing that the installment debt that we are having as part of the health crisis generated out of this is far more, even greater than the money we're expecting from this. So I will think that as part of this whole process, one suggestion would be for me that we create a tax team that will include people here, civil society actors, the media, and even those who are involved in this activity. We have some of them that are also come out of this activity. So if we can bring them with the society group, with the media, and some people here to form a task team that will go on preaching the message. The second thing is that let us not deceive ourselves. Officials of government and security agencies are those driving even the bunkering we're talking about. Without their complicity, we will not have the sort of thing we are saying that no matter how you talk, these boys continue. Who is providing the coverage for them to move the product from one location to the other? It's still the security agencies. So it's something that the government must come and act. So beyond the tax team and preaching to the communities, we need to get the government and security officials. Today there is a scramble to come to the Niger Delta. Go to every security sector in this country today. There is a scramble in the Air Force, there is a scramble in the Army, there is a scramble in the police sector, all to be posted to this place. Why are they scrambling to come here? It is all relating to artisanal refining. Because in what they make out of that in 1 year is far more than what they do in several years. So I think it's a combined thing that we need to do. We need to find ways to get the government committed to this struggle because it's our life that is at stake. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Standing on existing protocol. My name is Chukuma Mwawituzi Abraham, the President, People's Encouragers Initiative, AHODA. I think building a society without building man is useless. Let me start it at that point. I think there is no hopeless situation that cannot be changed. I think we should tell ourselves the truth and let us call spade a spade. If you come from an area or an environment where our land is being devastated, you begin to cry every time, every hour. When Dr. Gerda was speaking, I was thinking about my own son. For the past 3-4 weeks, he has been coughing. Catarrh, breathing like a cow, like a cock is about to die. So when I heard about this conference, I said, whatever it takes me, I'm going to be here. You see, I can see that majority of us are looking through a coated mirror that sees ourselves how we're going to make it. All of us standing here, we're happy and we're involved in this thing and we're gaining from it. So I want to say that if we're fighting to stop soot, we should all put hand on decks and stop it than painting it with a larger handout. If you're not ready, you tell the world you're not ready. If you're ready, take action, be proactive. I wouldn't say much, but all I know that this conference is out at a time that is needful. But quite unfortunately, the aim shouldn't be defeated because it's like we're double-edged sword that don't hit the nail. You see, I just want to set up, maybe put 1 or 2 suggestions. And my suggestion is basically on creating more awareness. I think that should be a starting point. I'm suggesting that there are certain persons that these things have highly affected. The body should make use of indigenous persons to move alongside with them to talk with these boys that are doing this Yagbo fire because they know them and they are their brothers and sisters. 2, they say you cannot use force to end force. You cannot be putting on suit, S-U-I-T-E, to fight suit, S-O-O-T. So we should drop our suit to fight suit with realities. I'm also suggesting that we have some CBOs in the community level. So there's community-based organization and the credible one, those who are ready, those who have passion for the nation, for the people, for the environment, They should organize them and tell them what to go and speak to their brothers. Why the external bodies will come and assist them. I also want to suggest that if you go to my area now, because I'm not here to hide anyone, the security officers, agents have worsened the situation. But I know the nation is bad. No way we all are passing through poverty, through financial problem. But why are we killing our environment? Because we want to meet it by all means. Security agents found doing this should be prosecuted. Because I keep saying that if without airtime, GSM cannot work. Just like without bullets, gun cannot work. How did the bullet get to these ones? Who is encouraging them? According to one of our brothers say, in the afternoon they chase them, in the night they go and beg them. We are witness. I am. So it pains me. So I'm suggesting that we all should put hand on desk and do something, not just theoretical message. Let it be proactive and practical. Thank you.
Standing on existing protocol, Mrs. Eberechi Ndodem Godwin. I am from University of Port Harcourt, a PhD student, disaster risk management. What I want to suggest is that when it comes to community engagement that most of our speakers have really highlighted, when we come to risk communication, we want to advise these men who are in this business, the risk associated with their business. Let them know what they stand to lose and also what they stand to gain when it comes to the business that they are in it. Also, we also want to persuade them. After commending them, remember we said that they are bridging a gap. So since they are bridging a gap, we want to commend them on what they are doing and also persuade them into taking proactive measures, into taking positive actions. From the drama, the dance step that we just watched, one of them lost their son. That was what he stood. He lost that son. And so if we take this message to them, let us also communicate to them, perhaps by illustrations, perhaps by dramas, perhaps by telling them stories that they can reflect on. Let us communicate to them with the language that they will understand. That is what risk communication is all about. When you communicate risk to someone without telling the person what he stands to gain, what he stands to lose, communicate to him in the language that he stands to understand. That will be heart-touching. When the doctor brought the daughter here and communicated to us, many of us who were here went emotional. I cried because I am also a victim of this situation. I was not born with sneezing, but all of a sudden, 2 years ago, I started sneezing. I could not stand in the public because of what? Soot. I've tried different measures of a lot of drugs, but it's not working out for me. Until I moved to a certain area, the doctor said, why don't you try moving out from where you are to a certain area? Perhaps it will improve your air quality. We applied that suggestion, and it did work for me. I've been here for a couple of hours. I have not sneezed for just a single time. What are we saying? When you communicate the risk associated with anything you are doing to someone, you persuade this person, you commend this person, the person sees reason why he wants to act about what you are telling him. So if we are communicating with them, please commend them, persuade them, and tell them what they stand to benefit if they actually take the action. Thank you.
The suit is here with us. That means that we are already an endangered species. One, we need to advocate for improved health conditions. Is it not surprising that this is the Niger Delta, where the oil comes from, but we don't have standard hospitals? For some years now, we've been advocating for proper record of what patients come with to the hospitals, so that we can say specifically that these are the things that we are suffering from hosting oil for Nigeria. Secondly, it is obvious that the federal government is not interested in what happens to us. That's why the call for international collaboration is welcome. But we need to press these messages to the communities so that people will understand there's no employment. People have to survive. We have to ask government to provide means of survival for the teeming youth in the Niger Delta. We can't run away from that. And I'm happy that Dr. Giadom raised the issue that modular refinery is not for the ordinary person. What we need is something that all our youth who are interested can do in a guided form. So there's need for serious advocacy to press on the federal government to address this issue. Secondly, communities need to be aware of the dangers. If we didn't come here, we will hear that there are respiratory challenges, infertility, but we have seen just first-hand victims. The other man that spoke there, he talked about his son being a victim. And my sister there has already come up that she too is a victim. So we are in trouble. Apostle Zili Agri, last month or so, he came and told us at a forum that he went to the UK for routine checkup. And the doctors were questioning the lungs. Say, what is that? There's some measure of death, let me use that word, in the lungs. So it affects everybody. But while we are talking of sensitization, it might be suicidal to carry the message personally to the communities where these things are practiced. So we need to devise measures, whether it will be radio that will be beamed to the communities or television that will be beamed to the communities, so that the people get first-hand information about the dangers of soot. Then we will keep pushing, advocating for the state governors in the Niger Delta and the federal government to address this problem. Thank you.
Bordeaux in Ogoniland is being cleaned up. There's a remediation going on there. And when this cleanup started, we were concerned that we will be cleaning up and there will be fire activities that will repollute the cleanup that's been done. I want to share with all of you that this cleanup is ongoing, but we discovered something, and that was that there was a significant reduction in fire activities in Bordeaux. Why? We employ over 800 persons to do this cleanup in Bordeaux. It's in 3 batches, so 800 times 3. A lot of young men are employed and are earning money. So 1 + 1 is 2. You are wondering, is this related to the fact that this cleanup is ongoing, people are employed, and there is a significant, I repeat, a significant reduction in fire activities. So as we brainstorm, put our heads together, and try to find solutions to this problem, there is an example of a place somewhere where it happened that there is a significant reduction in fire activities, in the border community. And by the way, the cleanup is still ongoing. I pray that this continues. I pray that when the cleanup is done, there won't be a return to some of these activities. But I want to share with the House that we did not have a magic wand. There were, I'm sure that people talked and engaged to ensure that this reduction was effective, but it's happening. It's happening, and I'm a witness, and I think I want to share it with the House. I hope that in other communities in the Niger Delta, government, companies, civil society, we can all put together about empowering some of the young men that are involved in these activities and somehow stopping the soot, which is killing us. Thank you.
Good day. My name is Alagba Bakosi Chinedu. And I'm very much concerned about this. And whatsoever that is affecting the child or the general public, I can cross oceans and climb mountains to stand against it. Now, let me say this. When you get into your house and you find out that there is water all over, I think what you need to do first is to turn off the channel that is getting the water down from the tank. I'm not sure we have done that concerning this Stop the Soot. We are looking at the current problem. My first suggestion is this. This campaign has to be introduced in schools, especially in rural areas, because we did a statistics. Nearly 2 in 2 teenagers, nearly 2 in 3 teenagers in rural communities are involved in this illegal refinery, and they are not aware. So if we can introduce it into the school curriculum, it's going to help. Then secondly, how many religious teachers are talking about this? This is serious. They have the audience. In rural communities, I have seen it. I'm from Akinima. And you could find out that some of these young men who are involved in that, they also go to church. So who is talking to them about that? So we need to see how we can stop the younger people into getting into the business. First thing first, they need to be aware of the implication. Then we start, after that, then we can start looking at the water in our compound, which is then the young men who are involved in it. I'm a field agent with the Green Child International Organization. Thank you very much.
I'm happy that we are all aware that soot is real. That means that climate change is real. I'm also happy of some of the findings, especially from the medical aspect, from a medical practitioner who have proved to us that even the men, the young people are in danger due to the spermatozoa, the structure of the spermatozoa. If you look in the society today, I don't want to talk about the old people because all of them have already got their children. And the young people are facing these challenges. I think our government, everybody, every sector have to act fast for us to survive. Now, I will support with this little comment. Having gained the knowledge on this soot and climate change, Now, the world is shifting to renewable energy. They call it just transition. It's working in other countries. I have done a research on renewable energy, and I see that Nigeria is still like almost 0.4 over 100 in Nigeria. And this is the only solution, or one of the cheap solutions to the soot, to the climate change. Why not ask our government, change the narrative, ask the government to remove some of the tariff, or come into the renewable energy and make it affordable, accessible, and for the local people to get access to it and make use of it. I think if we change some of our agitation, our advocacy to this, it will be a helping solution. Because we can't stop the boys. That is being their livelihood. But if they see an alternative being the renewable energy, they will embrace it. Take a look at when the computer system or laptop or the computer come into all the corner, everybody want to open computer business center. Now computer have reduced. POS is on now. And everybody want to have a POS business. See, it's a new innovative or knowledge. If we employ this to the local level and the government step in to make renewable energy accessible and affordable, you can see people will dance to that training. By the time they have the training, everybody will love to use it. The use of soot will reduce drastically. Thank you.
The solution to soot depends 75% on federal government, 20% on the states, 5% on the citizens. Where are the alternatives to power? How can our mothers get kerosene to cook? How can we get diesel to run our businesses? There are no alternatives. And here it has been emphasized that these guys bridge the gap. So the federal government must ensure our refineries are working optimally. Without that, both fire will still continue. Until our refineries start working, our mothers can get kerosene and cook. We get our gas and cook. We get our diesels to run our businesses. Go around Port Harcourt. 90% of the banks, 90% of all business houses patronize or get their diesel from Pofire. Go and you see. Go to Borokri now, opposite Gary Market. You will see at least 5 tankers of about 35,000 liters capacity. What are they there for? Do we have depots there? No. They are there to load diesel in the night. And go to Shoshi, go to Morehouse. You see policemen in Sienna vehicle on bike chasing these guys to take their home capitation. How can this all stop? Depends on the federal government. Federal government control these security agencies. Why, when these are solved, like me, I don't buy anything. I use my gas. The day I stop selling kerosene, I stop buying kerosene too. Because I don't want to come back and hear that my wife's face is burnt or all of that. So that is one solution. Number 2 solution is policies must change. Companies we have these policies of polluter pays principle. It is not working again. It can't work again. Let me burn my, let's flare our gases and we pay just few millions. It won't work. It can't work. It is overdue. So it has to change. Government also must start spending money on research. Dr. B is a public health practitioner. How can medical personnel, environmentalists come up with solutions? I spend lots of money getting remotely sensed data of PM 2.5 in the Niger Delta states. Capital intensive. We love to do more and we love to study more. But where is the fund? So the states and LG has to come up to bridge those gaps again. Invariably, I am putting 70% on the solution on the federal government. And when there is alternative power, we the citizens can then patronize this alternative power and leave fire alone. Thank you very much.
Two tasks that I've had to perform here today, and both of them, the first one I did before and this one, they're both really repetitions of what others have done before. Because the task now is to reel out, in no particular order, some of the recommendations, some of the solutions going forward. We will take our time and put them, arrange them properly together, do a lot more thinking in terms of actually actualizing them. But for now, we just want to remind ourselves that while we and our various resource persons have talked about the problem, we've actually also generated quite a number of solutions, possible solutions. So that's basically what I want to do, but we will after now put them together and we'll also put them on a portal that will be open to everybody to see. And talking about that portal, I want to quickly call on, before I go into some of the recommendations, including some that have not been mentioned here, which some of us have had in mind before now. I'm going to go into them. But before I go into them, quickly let me call on Tammy to talk to us for 2 minutes about the portal that we'll put together that will have access, that will create access to everyone to see what is going on an ongoing basis.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you, Barrister Wills. I want to thank the hosts. My name is Tammy Joshua. I am from Creative Connecting Technologies, CCTech for short. This is a noble project, and I'm going to just take just 2 minutes exactly. The truth is, we know in Rivers State what soot is. It's a scourge. It's affecting everybody. We can talk about it, but the most important thing is that the theme of the conference captures what our desire is, and what's our desire? Stop the soot. Not just talk about the soot or plan about the soot, stop the soot. Now, what is required is that there's going to be an ongoing advocacy. There's also necessity, there's a requirement for resources. When I mean resources, not just money, information. Most of the people who spoke, especially even those who talked about technology, talked about data-driven decision-making or evidence-based decision-making. And the CSOs, a lot of people are trying to intervene. I've been involved in protests against soot, but I'm happy and I want to congratulate Rotary, Port Harcourt Club, ECHO, for moving beyond protest to actually planning and trying to set up a roadmap toward stopping the soot. So we will stop the soot, but we're going to use technology. And www.stopthesoot.ng is already registered. The development is ongoing. A few weeks from now, you'll be able to log into the site as a partner and get specific information for partners. After now, average people will be able to upload whatever incidents of fire or artisanal refining processes or activities taking place in their places. We're going to make it so discreet and ensure that when we want to make the case against the continuation of soot, because we know there's an economic perspective to this, and most of these people here say they do not see, and even when they see, there's no enough evidence for them to be convinced that they're actually being part of those destroying the people they're trying to lead as stakeholders in the community. So this portal is going to be running very soon, and CCTech is going to be partnering with Rotary, Port Harcourt Club, ECHO to do this. So keep your hand crossed, keep the process going, and I thank you all for coming. God bless you.
Thank you, Tommy. So in a few days or weeks, anyone here and anyone anywhere can access www.stopthesoot.ng, Tammy, ng.ng, to know what's going on and to also make a contribution in terms of suggestions and so on. But quickly to the summary, a brief summary of recommendations made here today. It's not comprehensive, but we have suggestions, solutions ranging from establishment of cellular refineries, now moving away from modular refineries, We're not against modular refineries, but in addition to them, let there be cellular refineries, which will be much smaller. And I'm told that in a hall like this, the space covered by this hall, you could probably have up to 2 or 3 modular refineries within this kind of space. That also means that the cost will be much less. So establish cellular refineries and legitimize artisanal refining activities. That includes, of course, improving, upgrading what is already going on and turning them from an informal, quote unquote, illegal sector into a normal, official sector, formal sector of the economy that will be paying taxes also. Establish refining corridors in different localities where artisanal refining takes place. Establish air quality management authority and other air quality indices. Periodic publishing of air quality data. Stop gas flaring. Of course, there's a lot of detail to that, but the target is stop gas flaring. And if we put our hearts to it, I'm sure that we can come up with specific steps that can be taken towards stopping gas flaring. Engage artisanal refiners as partners in Stop the Soot campaign. That's a very important one. And then the need for constant engagement with sister environmental organizations on the process that we're undertaking. Training of artisanal refiners on better approaches to what they're doing. Develop air quality, we already mentioned that. Channeling the energies of youths involved in artisanal refining. Enforcement by government agencies through change of policy to curtail gas flaring. Again, that's already been talked about. Improve livelihoods. And here we're talking about community economic empowerment and alternative livelihoods. And it's good that in Nemo, Samyama gave us the live example of what is happening in Bodo, where a new activity that absorbed about 700 or 800 young people immediately led to the drastic reduction of artisanal refining and the soot incidents there. Of course, we will partner with technology here. We saw the illustration that Aquila and his team did here. Let me quickly move on to some other notes that I made. Awareness campaign. What we're doing now is part of the awareness campaign, but we need to raise it to a much higher level so that it will be a movement. Let everybody in our markets, in our schools, in our families, in beer parlors, wherever, let this thing be so strong that everyone can touch it. Let's build awareness to that level. Biodiversity advocacy. Our friend Chinedu Ile, before he left, opened our eyes to the possibility of founding part of our campaign on other aspects of biodiversity. Because on a lighter note, he thinks that sometimes there are people in the world who don't care much about Africans, but they care about the birds that are in our environment. You're likely to have, coming out of this, a Save the Chekeleke campaign, Save the Egret campaign, and you'll be amazed at the results that some of these things will bring. Enact and enforce a Clean Air Act, amplify research, development, and deployment, policy engagement. Chris Inku told us about the need. Was it Chris? No, it was Onis from HiPrep, who reminded us that there's a need to take this conversation upward, take it to a policy level. So part of this process will see us having to engage, maybe in smaller numbers, but with critical actors, especially in the policy space, state government, federal government agencies, and so on and so forth. from the NCDMBs, the local content board, NDDC, High Prep, NOSDRA, NESREA. Many of them may not be in this room today, but we will have to find a way to engage with them and take this conversation to that level. Community engagement, and so these are some of the, and of course, international collaboration. So this is just a quick run through of some of the recommendations in addition to the health sector dimension, where there's need for more health facilities, healthcare facilities. But these are some of the recommendations. We're going to make a more comprehensive outline and put on the portal that will be created. But before that is done, more thinking would have been done on it so that there will be steps, action points to take. The other two things that will be important for us to do before I yield the space to our sister, Rotarian past Assistant Governor, Ibim Seminary. The other two things would be, one, we will need to set up a task team, as suggested by Mr. Piagbara, that will join in implementing some of the recommendations, in taking them forward. But related to that, slightly different, but related to that, is the need to set up also a strategic contact or a strategic working group that will be responsible for reaching out to key actors, especially in the policy space, and other influencers that can take certain steps that will create a sea change. So this is a quick rundown of some of the suggestions and recommendations, and I'm happy to invite, how do I do that? To invite our sister, Ibim Seminary, to please talk to us. Thank you.
Yes, I do apologize. I've been stuck and I have taken 4 different routes, and I'm hoping I'll get there soon. But just first of all, to commend the Rotary Club of Port Harcourt ECHO, and to commend all our partners, and to say that Rotary, wherever it is, acts as a catalyst to get every stakeholder involved in making sure that we take action that will lead to lasting change. And this is why the Rotary Club of Port Harcourt ECHO is doing this. Basically serving as a catalyst and a rallying point for us to take this action that will save all our lives. Quite frankly, the soot problem, like everyone has talked about, is multifaceted, is multidimensional, and therefore we need all of these. We need all of these stakeholders to be able to get it done. So having everybody in the room as part of the campaign is something that would help us going forward. I'd like to thank everyone who's contributed as a partner, and to say that this is just a first step. I'm sure that we're going to have a conversation very soon in January, because we don't want to rest on our oars. We've started and we're going to go forward with this. And so by January, we're taking the next step. And hopefully, by the middle of next year, we should see some traction that will lead to concrete action. Thank you very much again. And I'm still on my way. I'm hoping that I get there before it all ends. Thank you.
Thank you, PAG Ibim Seminary. Thank you for that wonderful comment that you have made. And on that note, may I call on Rotarian Davis Okarivo to at least take us through an appreciation and closing. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, good afternoon, everybody. It's been a long day. We are about coming to an end, but we need to say thank you to a couple of people that found time to be here today. We thank the partners that came together to join us at Rotary Club of Port Harcourt ECHO to get this through. This is the beginning of the journey, as the PhD just said. We just started this discussion now, this conversation as they call it. We'll definitely take it up until we get something going in Port Harcourt. We thank the resource persons. They're wonderful. You will agree with me. They actually showed that they've done so much work on this topic, suits. And the Stop the Soot must be a reality very soon. We believe that if we start doing something, not just government alone, but governments and all of us will try and do what we can do. We thank those that came for this conference that are not part of the partners or part of the source persons. And a lot of you have been here till the end. And that shows your interest. We appreciate. And we believe that by the time we continue this conversation early next year, January, you'll all be on board. And by the time we bring out the portal, you will definitely look into it and get something going. Thank you for coming. And we wish you a very safe journey back to your respective homes. Thank you.
May we all stand on our feet. In Jesus' name. Heavenly Father, we thank you and we glorify your name. We worship you, we adore you, and we exalt you. Lord, we thank you for bringing us together to discuss this life-threatening and endemic soot that we are facing today in the Niger Delta. Lord, we ask, even as we have discussed and have outlined steps that we will take, Lord, may you put it in our hearts just so that we can begin with the steps that we have decided to take this day. Lord, we ask, even as you have protected us, brought us to this meeting, we ask that you see us back to our various destinations, cover us with the blood of Jesus, task as many that are needed to make this movement, what I call movement, a fruition. All this we pray through Jesus Christ our Lord. And amen.